At this moment, the world has entered the Ice Age. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 326. Some of the winds of kings are born, and some of the winds of kings are honed in countless disasters. In the long history of history, for example, in the Qin dynasty, Qin Huangzhou's Heng was tolerant during his childhood, and when he grew up, he broke out of unity everywhere. In the Tang dynasty, the history was more than suppressing everything. In the Ming dynasty, Zhu Yuan's Heng was born. These are the auras of the big figures, and now that Alex saw Ying Ziyue, he immediately thought of the words of the aura of a big man. For the first time, he knew the man who resisted disasters in the east. He really glowed with an aura called battle. Even though the storm is now -50 degrees and the rain is majestic, this man has a silver head and expressionless face. Without any fluctuating emotions, this is like a god overlooking the world. Ying Ziyue's hair is half white, but there is no trace of aging on her skin. Her eyes are scarily bright and piercing. They are the brightest and most piercing eyes. Ying Ziyue's body is like an iron gun. He stands. The posture is straight, standing majestically. Now, Alex sees a king who has represented 20 years of disaster command. Everyone, I'm Danfang Ying Ziyue. Welcome to join Danfang next. Welcome everyone. After Ying Ziyue finished speaking, Alex nodded, and then a team behind him began to play music. These are all European-style electric guitars, pianos, guitars, bass and other musical equipment. American-style music sounded, which represented the supreme welcome. After a few words of greeting, Ying Ziyue pointed to the airship. He was full of emotion now that more and more young geniuses appeared in the 20 years of Glacier. The senior officials in the Rose Country were all 18-year-olds. Then he pointed to airship. Mr. Alex Robb, would you like to go to Kawasaki? Let me show you the construction of project number 1, planetary engine factory number 1. Ying Ziyue stretched out her hand and raised it slowly. It seemed like an invitation, and it seemed like a collision of the high-level courage of two big countries. It was extremely magnificent and spectacular. Very happy too. Alex Robb nodded, and one by one, behind him, the high-level people started to board the airship quickly. Ying Ziyue swept the city of freedom behind him. This city does not need to be entered, because his next more important plan is to use a Zulan rebirth plan to push the Earth away. As for the West, there is probably no place where he can really look at it from an admiring angle, because everything in the civilization period is buried under the ice. Whirring. The propellers of the airship roared, and then one of the airships began to take off. With the sound and vibration of the propellers getting louder and louder, hundreds of airships took off, and the speed of the takeoff was faster and faster. This is the Oriental Dragon airship. In the middle of the airship is a giant viewing platform, which overlooks the environment below 800 meters. It is very beautiful. Some people on the viewing platform overlooked, and then the airship reached the sea. I saw that in the sea. The supergiant ice-breaking aircraft carriers showed their magnificent power. Seeing the ice-breaking aircraft carriers, Alex was a little sighed. Army green ice-breaking aircraft carriers are lined up in a row. On each of them, lasers are hung, and they are arranged neatly, just like the rigorous army in the east. This is the first time that Alex Robb saw this in the post-glacial period. Military with complete specifications. Then the picture became more and more shocking. Because the airship sailed into the sky above Kawasaki Island. This is a huge island with a huge area. And on this island, those pieces of ruined vacant land have been cleaned up. The icebreaker aircraft carrier has docked, and then the pontoons on the beach have been built. The army green glacier truck appeared, like ants going together, and began to drive quickly toward the center of the ruin, almost visible to the naked eye. The foundation of the project was completed, and the large-scale pontoon bridge was laid. After watching this step, Alex could only feel it. The great power of infrastructure. Only a major infrastructure country can do it. After getting off the airship, Alex and Ying Ziyue walked towards the number 1 planetary engine factory. As the next first project in the launch site of the planetary engine. The construction here is naturally extremely complete. The North-South Research Institute in the East has dispatched nearly 300 scientific research professors and 17 scientific research teams to be responsible for surveying, mapping, construction, layout, and fit. Wait for arrangements. Those scientific research professors appeared on both sides of the road. They all wore cold-proof clothes and protective helmets, and then bowed slightly to Ying Ziyue. Ying Ziyue smiled and nodded. They were all compatriots. Alec Robb has a complicated expression. You must know that this is only the first small plant with planetary engines in the East, so I don't know how terrifying the native land of the East will be. Glacier is the 20th year that there have been 10 disasters. The world is resisting disasters. Only the East developed vigorously in resistance and developed vigorously on the ground. They created the Cambrian, and now they are starting to create planetary technology. Standing on the periphery of the project, a group of people can feel it. The plant began to form quickly, and now the initial construction of the plant has been completed, and the initial total area has reached 20,000 square meters. Among them, in the middle, one by one giant executives began to be placed. The engine began to be laid. It is necessary to know that the total height of the planet is as high as more than 3,000 meters in the civilized era. The world can only be achieved by uniting. But now, Eastern civilization has reached a level point. The East can do it in the face of planetary engine engineering. This is the development force of the Eastern Ice Age Second World. At this moment, the senior officials of the Western Rose Country have seen the horrible and huge project. Each of them can feel the power of technological development. After entering the factory, almost a complete assembly line appears. The conveyor belt, the transport and installation equipment, the tower crane. Some giant engine parts were lifted up and installed after being opened. Well, at the same time, the construction of the later warehouse is completed. There are still plant resettlement personnel under management, and the construction of the logistics and life warehouse is completed. At the same time, new residences and warehouses were developed locally, and vegetables were grown in insulated greenhouses. Next here will be a #1 planetary engine factory in Dongfang, and it will also be the residence of #1. There will be more than 20,000 Dongfang workers and technical engineers living here, so the living conditions here will be. It is a very high support point. After watching the project carefully, Alex spoke. Gentlemen, I want to know what this plan is called. On the hillside, Ying Ziyue looked at the infinite sea in front of him. The waves were heavy and heavy, the cold wind was rustling, and the storm and thunder were raging in the dark clouds. Just under this epic picture, Ying Ziyue spoke lightly. It's called the Zulang Rebirth Project. Chapter 327. If you come to the sky late to snow, can you drink a cup? But so that the Dragon City Fujian is here, not called Humaduan Mountain Point so far. Thinking about Xiangyu, he refuses to cross Jiangdan Point. Now Alex thought of many verses from the east to describe Ying Ziyue, but in the end he only thought of one sentence. In Qin 221, the first emperor ascended the throne. The first emperor suppressed everything, and the whole world was a chess. From then on, the old Qin people suppressed the injustice in the world, leaving only strands of wronged souls hidden in hell. So Alex just wanted to say that the world is the land of kings. Only this sentence is qualified to describe Ying Ziyue to Alex Robb. It can describe his aura, her domineering, and his temperament. It is like the reappearance of that great historical and ancient dynasty more than 2,300 years ago. Now on the coast of Kawasaki Island, on a huge grey-blue boulder, Ying Ziyue clicked on the watch. The sky was now dimmed, and the watch began to project, as if the starry sky was projecting. The picture was extremely clear. The first scene is related to the plan that the East will do next. In the 20 years of Glacier World, this will be the greatest project the East will do. None of them. This will be the greatest and most shocking project in history. The East will take the lead to cover the world. Everyone must participate, whether they want it or not, because it is about a new Earth, and it is about the leap of a technological era. A lot of people. The first scene of the projection screen officially appeared. This is a blue starry sky. This is a vast universe, and the positioning point of the universe is 13.7669. Here is a dense galaxy. The Earth is close to the moon, and currently Mars and other planets. At the same time, at the edge of the dense galaxy, the azure Earth is quietly turning around point, and there are countless groups of meteorites, meteor groups, and debris groups flying by the Earth. And then one meteorite hits under the circumstance of cosmic gravity. The collision is like a small flame ignited, but this is a picture of the universe observation. If the human eye can watching, you will see that this is a spectacular scene of stars colliding and destroying each other. It is like a scene where thousands of nuclear bombs explode at the same time, and this is just a flash of fire in the universe. Ying Ziyue's voice sounded. His voice sounded as if in this universe, in the projection of the starry sky point extremely faint. Gentlemen, have you seen Mars? As Ying Ziyue pointed to the starry sky location map, the Earth's west galaxy, which is a dark red planet with thin scars. Ying Ziyue pointed at Mars and sighed and said, "Next, the Astronomical Research Institute will build Mars as a laser launch base. The East and the West will send astronauts to build a Mars laser launch engineering base with a laser military device. That is to say, the role of this base is to prevent meteorite swarms from hitting the Earth." Ying Ziyue's voice is faint, but everyone knows that Mars has a great effect, and this will be the most important place to strike. In other words, when the Earth is rushing out of the dense galaxy, Mars will launch giant laser cannons one after another to destroy those stars. This is the most majestic blow, so the amount of engineering required is extremely magnificent. In the civilized period, even the global alliance could not be achieved, but now the Eastern disaster has developed for 20 years, and human science and technology have already reached the level of science and technology 100 years later, so Dongfeng leads the world to achieve this kind of plan. After Ying Ziyue finished speaking, the engineers Li Hao, Alex Robb, and the North and South engineers behind Ying Ziyue, and research professors all squinted their eyes. They knew that this was only the first part of the Zhulang rebirth plan. That is to say, this is the beginning. Ying Ziyue switched the screen again, and now the starry sky projection from the north latitude of the Earth appeared. This is a moon, which can be said to be the mother planet of mankind point, because the moon is no less important to the Earth than the sun. The ebb and flow of the Earth, the formation and subversion of the Earth, the difference between the day and night of the Earth, and the astronomical anomalies, temperature, etc., are all related to the moon. This is one thing. This is a planet that can be called soft and beautiful, with a faint moonlight shining on the Earth point. There are countless legends about the moon, and now the real role of the moon is here. Ying Ziyue carried her hands on her back and spoke before the starry sky projection. Next, the moon will be used as a viewing base, and then a giant observation device will be built on the moon. That is to say, a device called the Dragon's Eye will be built on the moon to see the universe and galaxies millions of light years away. Meteor swarms and black holes change. The moon will be the best, safest and most perfect observation device and early warning device on Earth. Then Jupiter. The Jupiter project will be handed over to the West. The East will send scientists to assist. What Jupiter has to do is build a counter-propulsion launch pad. This time the counter-propulsion launch pad has a magnetic field that ignores gravity. That is to say, this is to prevent the Earth from being sucked into black. So when the Earth leaves the dense galaxy, the meteorite group will be hit by laser cannons, and countless star explosions may form small black holes. Once the Earth is sucked into the black hole, everything will be completely ruined, and Jupiter will act as a counter-propulsion to assist the Earth. Its function is the same as that of Mars. It will release counter-propulsion to push the Earth completely out of the dense galaxy, making the Earth truly safe. Ying Ziyue faintly finished the plan. 3 clear plans appeared perfectly in front of everyone. The first is the global construction of a new engine plan. As the number 1 plan, the world will build a planetary engine base. The planetary engine is the first step to promote. Second, this is the establishment of a laser launch base on Mars to strike against the obstructing meteorite group. This is the first safe strike base on Earth. It is called the Dragon Rebirth Project. This is a strike device. The third is to build a rebound and push base on Jupiter. This is the Earth's number 3 plan. The promotion plan is to prevent the Earth from being sucked into the black hole, which is extremely important as a great help for the Earth to escape from the unified system. The fourth is a defense lookout plan. As the number 4 plan, the moon can observe all crises in the entire universe, ensuring that the Earth can have enough time to respond to threats in the future. Then Zhulang plan is over, covering 3 galaxies, covering the entire dense galaxy, fusing the power of the world, led by the Eastern Ancestral Dragon, to complete this epic level spectacular strike. Chapter 328. What is the plan of Jingxi and Weidi? What is a plan to cover the entire universe? Now Dongfang has made the best proof point at the beginning of the Ice Age. The East was laid out for 20 years, from the mainland in the east to the south and north to the offshore and far seas, and there were mountains and seas. Every area was laid out by the East. Then the glacier has been dismal for the world for 20 years. It was extremely desolate, and then at this moment, a plan called the Zhulang Rebirth Plan appeared perfectly, which was most in line with the plan of this era. Alex Robb stood quietly, knowing that only Dongfang Ying Ziyue could complete this plan, and none of the others could complete it. The sky and the earth were cold, the cold wind was rustling, and the voice of the wind and snow became louder. At this moment, everyone became unwilling to stay here. Ying Ziyue looked towards the east, and then he pointed to the airship. The giant dragon started with the rebirth plan, and then everyone boarded the airship to the east and began to arrange the Zhulang rebirth plan. As Ying Ziyue spoke, some people nodded. Behind them, the giant army green airship released its propellers and roared. The propellers began to roar and agitate. Then, the airship took off. Behind this airship, hundreds of airships were protecting, guarding. The cold wind was getting stronger and stronger. The airship roared, and then the airship heightened higher and higher. 100 meters, 300 meters, 500 meters, 1000 meters at -50 degrees. There are thunderstorms, lightning weather, torrential rain, hurricane weather, tornado weather etc. In an extreme world, flying at a height of 1000 meters is tantamount to perishing point. But the airship of the east made the best proof. That is, it started sprinting amidst all the dangers of thunder and lightning. You must know that in the 5th year of the Ice Age, the eastern airship has reached a limit. That is, Ying Ziyue opened the mouth, and the southern airship production plant then began to protect the airship's engine, as well as flying in extreme cold weather project. And now, the engineering of this era has been perfected to more than 50, so the flying of the extremely cold airship has reached the best proof time. This is an altitude of 1000 meters. For Alex Robb of Rose Country, he felt the altitude of 1000 meters for the first time. Before that, he used satellites to watch the pictures through military drones, and now he is truly as a human being on an airship of 11,000 meters, overlooking the Earth. The Earth is desolate. Snow-covered slices of mountains and icebergs of incomparable size are close to 1,000 meters high, and even airships walking from the top of the mountain. The picture of this scene is not only spectacular, but shocked to the limit. Who could have imagined that all the historical traces of civilization that existed in human beings are buried under this 1,000-meter high iceberg on the boiling viewing platform? Ying Ziyue was quietly looking at the Earth, watching the savage civilization of human beings, watching those civilizations gradually disappear. The wind moved his white hair and his cold and indifferent eyes. Behind him is the engineer Li Hao, who reported in a soft voice, "Because next this will be the best news of the outbreak of the eastern layout in history." Leader of the report: "Now, we have got the best news from the Southern Institute of Botany. That is, the global outbreak of plants. The Cambrian origin of life explosion has started again. Although it is -50 degrees, even if it is full at ice and snow, even if the weather is bad, extremely cold plants will grow on the ground. At the same time, some animals will quickly multiply and then eat grass. An ecological plant-animal system cycle will reappear. This will be the most shocking life explosion in human history because of the impetus from mankind. Unprecedented. Unprecedented." After the engineer Li Hao finished speaking, everyone present, all scientific research professors and Western scientific research teams all turned from solemnity to ecstasy, then to excitement, and some even cried. Because this is 20 years of the glacier, they once again felt the explosion of plant life. For humans, this is one of the best news. Then these people looked at Ying Ziyue, because the Cambrian life explosion, the whole operation of the plan was brought up by him and then completed, and now it is the best testimony point he was right. The layout is right, everything is right. The Cambrian life exploded, covering the earth for 20 years, covering a total area of the world. The plan began in the northern city of the east, and opened with the northern city of Xihai City. The beast cold resistance test, the plant cold resistance test, the seaweed survival test, and the next step-by-step test successfully guided the layout of the first part of Cambrian plants and animals, and then the layout was completed. Zero find flaws then. Within 20 years of continuous ups and downs, life species have completed gene leaps one by one and successfully erupted. Sure enough. With the speed of the airship getting faster and faster, the place is almost close to the Himalayas, the earth is no longer desolate, and the snowy land has gradually turned into cyan green. This is the essence of the plant and the most primitive color. As the airship moved faster and faster, there were more and more cold resistant plants on the ground. At the same time, some mammoth saber-toothed tigers appeared. These wolves all had long manes, which can keep out the cold. Then an airship appeared. This was a cargo airship in the east, mainly used to transport goods. At the same time, in the eastern coastal cities, a huge wall appeared. The black wall was extremely tall, like a huge black mountain, standing in the sky. After that, the airship continued to speed up, and it reached the inner city of Dongfeng, which is the eastern steel city. There were snow country trains outside the city of steel. The snow country trains made a whimper, accompanied by a puff of smoke, traveling around the country. Of huge supplies, there are more and more flying objects appearing on the ground. Airships, icebreakers, small icebreakers, transportation goods, small trains, etc., small tanks, small icebreakers, small man trucks, etc., have all appeared. Once mankind's past scientific and technological civilization has been presented in the most primitive and perfect way in the east. Then the airship arrived in Yanjing. And when you look down from a height of 1000 meters, you will see the Great Wall winding up and down. It has not been submerged by the snowstorm, because the giant robots are cleaning the snow near the Great Wall. The Great Wall is still there. It is an ancient and majestic appearance guarding the east. Then the airship started to land on the Great Wall. At this moment, the gate of Yanjing City gate opened, and military tanks and civilian vehicles appeared. Many civilians walked out excitedly, and then Alex heard it. The voice that shocked him the most in his life. The old kin went to the national disaster together. The people of the East are united as one. Key said no clothes, the same robe with the sun. Key said that there is no clothes, and the same robe with the sun. Death chapter 329. In human history, there are many words that can describe a city, such as majestic and majestic, such as magnificent, tall and mighty. But when the ancient and sci-fi giant city of Yanjing appeared, Alex knew thoroughly that such a terrifying city actually existed in the world. The accompanying giant airship slowly descended, military vehicles and civilian vehicles, all spontaneously parked in 2 rows, everyone holding a red flag. And the RVs in the snow were also planted with red flags. Although it is early June, the weather is still roaring with snow and wind. After the Ice Age, the 12-month season of the 330, mankind has no so-called plans for a long time. Endless cold, endless storms, endless blizzards. But, here, Alex Robb felt the warmth for the first time. That is the warmth of the giant human settlements. He felt the vitality of infinite human beings. After getting off the airship, the cold wind was still whistling. But this place has been completely conquered by humans. Giant icebergs have been carved into giant mammoth statues, as well as statues of Shi Huang, Confucius, Beiki, Zinkiji, and other historical figures. In those extremely huge icebergs have become some iceberg fun fields, ski resorts and Cambrian test iceberg fields. In the land of the east, the cold and white snow have been conquered, and human beings have survived tenaciously with brand new vitality. Alec Robb nodded almost tremblingly. Behind him, Lee Heo introduced with a smile. Engineer Lee Heo. He is less than 20 years old this year. When he was born, his parents told him that when the world encountered the cold current of the Ice Age, the East built the Snow Country train and built a steel city with the warmest protective device in the city, protecting hundreds of millions of dollars. Tens of millions of people. The East is the country with the least losses in the disaster. Therefore, since childhood, Xihai has been very clear about some of the projects in the East. He is very clear about the construction of each project, the planning of each project, and the role of each project. He dreams of becoming Ying Ziyue, such a character, and now he can proudly start to introduce everything in the East. He is also walking towards the spirit of the character Ying Ziyue, gentleman of the West. The City of Steel in the East has undergone 7 reconstructions. At the beginning, it was in the style of steampunk, equipped with defense mechanisms such as steel stoves, then began to upgrade, and began to have the placement device, the Gwen device, and the graphene device. Began to be a city of steel with new materials, and then began to become a technology device, with technology projection technology, to keep out the cold, steam step by step, and the whole process of laying. Later it became a steam technology device. So this city looks like a city in the victory period, but it has super technology. In this city, there are 2 trains on the ground and underground. It is extremely warm, and has with high-tech functions such as super rescue, call for help, food delivery, etc. It can even be made in an emergency, so that all aspects of collective protection, wall laying and other projects can be achieved. As Xihai was talking, then everyone moved forward quickly. The pace of these people was very fast, because these professors in the West could hardly wait to see the steam technology city. With the pace getting faster and faster, they saw the city. It looks like the first line of sight is a city wall. The city wall was originally at 50 meters, and then became 80 meters after the disaster got worse. Now the city wall has become a unified 100 meters. Zero. In any period of human civilization, a 100-meter high wall is always history, or many people feel that it is completely unrealistic. Once a crisis occurs, it has no effect at all. However, in the Ice Age, a 100-meter high wall, this is what mankind's best defense. Gwen has super defense, super consolidation, and has reached the ultimate talent point. Now the Western group is looking at this huge city wall point. The city wall has a blue light. This is a technological luster. It is called a solar device, which means that the city wall can absorb heat during the day, and then it starts to heat the city on the internet, making it that it can be universal during the day and night. Temperature is most suitable for the human body, the most suitable for human growth, and at the same time it can improve the human body's ability to resist cold. Point as the ice-breaking chariot progressed, a group of people began to pass through the huge gate, and the moment they entered the city, warmth struck. Point at the same time, oriental antique buildings appeared. At the same time, steam pipes appeared in a row of steam pipes. The pipes were slightly red. These are warm stove pipes. The current stove pipes are only used for some large factories. Every household is no longer used. Use this kind of pipeline. Point when seeing this kind of pipeline, some people in the West feel familiar, because they are still using this kind of pipeline. Point they seem to feel that the times are like mountains and seas, and the oriental annual rings are like mountains and seas. Chapter 330. When I came to the center of the city, a huge Ferris wheel appeared, which was like a playground machine, but everyone knew that this was a wind turbine, the greatest and largest wind turbine in the East, and he stood tall, like a giant, overlooking the world. Point the wind turbine carries mechanical silence and terror. The blades are nearly kilometer long, like the largest rotating device on the planet, roaring, and the engine is spinning. Now the violent wind is very loud. The wind turbine is spinning, and the speed seems to be very slow, but the wind turbine has spread from the initial height of 2,000 meters to 3,000 meters. The 3,000 meter high wind turbine, like a giant rotating blade, is rotating, and the whole city is supplied with electricity. The scene of this scene is difficult to see even in the movie, because it surpasses the original human beings. Civilized infrastructure capability 02 capability. Point who could have imagined that the first step in future science and technology is that giant generators have replaced nuclear power plants and become the most iconic product of humanity. In front of the team, Engineer Xihai's voice was loud. Mr. West, you see the city walls, wind turbines, and steam stoves. These were all created by the patriarch Ying during the civilization period. After the Ice Age broke out, these began to come in handy. After speaking, some people in the West smiled bitterly because their elders were not as intelligent as the East, and they didn't arrange a lot of trump cards, leaving only underground survival and starry sky exploration plans. Alec Robb is shocked now. From the time he was born, he heard the layout of the East one by one infrastructural development, and he also heard countless countries resisting disasters. He also heard the collision of sections, and saw one by one. When this civilization disappeared, he really saw the dissipation of civilization, and witnessed the rise of civilization. But only when he really came to the East could he know that some civilizations can really last forever, and they can truly be invincible under the dark night. Now he saw it, and saw it as a god. On the street, he saw groups of children preparing to go to school. They were holding textbooks called 20 Years of the Glacier, the types of disasters, the discussion on insulation, the influence of the universe and galaxies on the Earth, electromechanics, high-speed railways, airship studies. Looking at this scene, the professors in the West were all horrified. The East has completely built a system. Their children go to school and focus on the development of science in the Ice Age. They no longer survive, but they still want to develop. This is beyond everyone's imagination. It's terrible, terrible. I know this is history, but I don't know that human society is so terrible. No wonder the development of the East has reached this level, because their children know that they will become stronger from birth. Their ancestors and their elders left them with the best heritage, and they did not disappoint. Now I know thoroughly. The Zhulang Rebirth project is just a very confusing and terrifying plan. Why don't other civilizations dare to propose it? Only the East dare to propose it, because they really have the confidence and confidence to complete it. They have never allowed civilization to regress. I suddenly thought of a saying from the East. For thousands of years, the ancestors of the East have fought countless times. What they have to do is to live forever, to exist forever, just like the East. That famous saying is true for all people in the country. So what is the enemy in this world? Western professor smiled bitterly, surprised, sighed, and sighed. They became emotional and sentimental again. Then the group went on, and then arrived at the Oriental Research Institute, which is the center of the Yanjing Research Institute. The main building is nearly 12 stories high. After entering the scientific research, Ying Ziyue took the people to the astronomical star hall. And now, a group of nearly 200 professors of astronomy and starry sky are standing upright. Li Hao first saluted, and then began to introduce everyone. Zhang Chunming is 20 years old, male, born in Yanjing Northwest District, associate professor of astronomy. Su Chenghe, age 19, male, born in Yanjing Donghai Community, associate professor of astronomy. Zhang Zicheng is 18 years old, male, born in Bei'an Community, associate professor of black hole studies. Li Ziguo, 19 years old, male, born in Jiangbai District, Yanjing, associate professor of meteorite research. Everyone, they are all preparing for the Zhulang Rebirth plan of team leader Ying. When Li Hao finished reciting the name, these people stood up straight and then saluted. Everyone's eyes were full of enthusiasm, excitement, and a strong intent to fight that could not be concealed. This is the man, the most passionate man, who has never faded more than half a minute point among these people. It was Zhang Chunming who took the lead. Zhang Chunming stepped forward, and then he saluted and spoke. Leader of the report, we live to serve the motherland and to become the depths of the universe. We voluntarily participate in the Zhulang Rebirth project, and voluntarily go to the universe. Volunteer to start the galaxy construction of laser stations on the Earth. Men should conquer the universe, even more so for Chinese men. I'm waiting to take the lead. With a sonorous sound of blood and fever, Ying Ziyue turned around slightly. He did it, and the people of the Chinese people faced the catastrophe, did not fear the danger, and fought bravely. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 331. At this moment, a kind of inheritance called spirit is unfolding in this hall. All the astronomy and starry sky professors in the east stood upright, saluted, and then said their mission. They were not born in civilization. Everyone is young and immature, with an average age of 18. But for everyone, they have great power in their hearts. Everyone present chanted that our mission is to go to the universe and see. At this moment, almost everyone can feel this sense of mission. Across mountains and seas, science, and everything. Ying Ziyue was straight, and then he saluted. This courtesy was extremely solemn, and also extremely real, because the young people present were going to life and death, facing the danger of unknown loneliness, and making their first contribution to stepping out of the universe. Everyone, you go first, and I will come later. Yubei saluted suddenly. Then some people came to the road from the Hall of Astronomy and Starry Sky Point. The military trucks parked straight and neatly, and then everyone got on the car. Everyone was blindfolded. The Western executives knew that they were going to the most grand place in the East. The speed of the cars was getting faster and faster. After stepping out of Yanjing, the goal here is impressively an aviation base, which is also the 10th year of the Ice River. Ying Ziyue ordered the secret base to be developed by the aviation base, which is the rocket base. He started to build the Zhulang rebirth plan in the 10th year of the Ice River. Now Glacier's 20-year plan is mature, and the time for this air base to show up has finally come. According to the Chronicle, on June 2, 20th Glacier, the location was the aviation base in the northern suburbs of Yanjing, and the Zhulang project on the whole human being and the whole planet was launched. The weather is cold, and accompanied by rustling winds, but the air base feels solemn. Everyone who entered the base felt a little dignified, and to be precise, they even shivered, because the sense of majesty brought by this base was too strong. Alec Rob looked at the base with a bitter smile, and at the same time he was taken aback, because he saw a familiar person in front of the base. That was Eric, the high-ranking member of the Eagle Nation. The two smiled and nodded. Obviously, there are high-level people from all over the world here. Ying Ziyue walked in the forefront. He introduced as he walked. The next thing you guys are going to see is the Glacier 1 rocket. This rocket is used for observation. That is to say, this rocket is used to observe the meteorite group of the galaxy, and then it will start to serve as the Earth's first spaceflight telescope. Then there is a number 2 destroy rocket. This time the rocket is used as a spacecraft to clear obstacles when it flies into the solar system. It is not a rocket carrying a blasting device and its terrifying laser impact. It can destroy a popular meteorite group. Its function it is to clear the obstacles on the track. As for the third one is the Ice Age spacecraft. At this time, the expressions of Alex, Rob and Eric who were present changed slightly, because they knew that they had reached the core of the plan. As the gate of the aviation base opened, the first ship that appeared in front of everyone was almost a meter high, and equipped with 0 observation cameras. This is the Glacier 1 rocket. It is coming to observe orbit again, as the first eye of the Earth. Known as the Eye of Zhulang. Tall and mighty, huge horror, in front of a 120-meter high rocket. Humans can think of vocabulary, that is, worshipping technology. Then came the Glacier 2 destroy rocket, which is called the destroy rocketeer. As the name suggests, the hideous shell expects a laser device and hundreds of nuclear warheads. At the same time, it has carried out a molecular strike against nuclear fission, which means that in a gravity-free environment, it can strike a meteor group in an orbit, which is a rocket. It is 400 meters high, almost deep into the sky, and is also equipped with an invisible device. Then there is a third ship. This is a mysterious black spacecraft, and the first Ice Age spacecraft that really appears in front of the world. It's all black, like the battle flag of the Eastern Qin dynasty. It's all black, close to a UFO, and the area is as large as 6 football fields. Because this is an expansion spacecraft, it will be used as a base to expand on Mars and Jupiter. Build a base. Attack ability is medium, mechanical ability is high, speed ability is medium, but this is the first ship in the Ice Age since human history, and it can truly be called a spacecraft. Chapter 332. Glacier World's first meeting between Eagle Country Senior Eric and Rose Country Senior Alex Rob at the Yanjing North Suburban Aviation Base in early June. This meeting is called the first step of the Zhulang rebirth plan. These two sentences have also been established. The next plan for the whole people, to go to the universe. So this plan is called the National Resistance Number Own. That is to say, after the visit to the aviation base, the global nature of this department seems to have begun to change, and it has begun to change rapidly with its reborn nature. Yanjing Scientific Research Center Command Center. In the Command Center, Ying Ziyue, Eric, Alex Rob, Engineer Li Heo, Research Dean Zhang Beiqiang, and the deans of 10 major scientific research centers, and the principals of major universities all once again gathering. The room is clean and tidy, with an area of 300 square meters, and everyone is sitting on their seats with a solemn expression. They are looking at the frontmost position. The next plan for you is very simple. It is to issue an airship call to the civilized land and the land of human civilization on the islands of the world, which means that all commanders, managers, high-level officials, and politicians must go to Mount Tay. Next, a nationwide meeting will be held at Mount Tay 333. After this meeting, the global Zhulang rebirth plan will be launched. After Ying Ziyue finished speaking, the high-level officials present nodded and saluted. Everyone's cold-proof clothes were meticulous. They were all piercing and piercing. Some were old men, but they still exuded combat power. In the 20th Ice Age, mankind, the civilization and science of China have made great progress. The basic life expectancy has increased to 40 years, which means that the average life expectancy is 90 years old, and the longest life has reached the age of 40 years. So this also proves that Eastern medicine and Eastern integration are the most correct. But from now on, they don't have a learning goal. They can only walk by feeling the stones. As a pioneer at this moment on June 5th, a fleet of airships in the east flew out from the airbase. The airships were military green, and the propellers roared behind. As the airships became faster and faster, the airships began to travel around the world. Every island in the world has begun to be called. Because of the previous plate collisions, many countries have been scattered into islands with hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people, and 100,000 people. They have become small civilizations. And next, these managers will be invited. Here is the West Sea in the east. The sky in the West Sea is grey. The sky is still snowing. A giant airship appears. At the same time, there are laser impact missiles, laser strike missiles, laser missiles, and so on. This is for armed deterrence. Because all high-level executives must attend this meeting, which is a nationwide meeting. Now above the sky, many airships go to all western islands such as the North Glacier, the South Glacier, the West Sea and the North Sea, as well as Kawasaki and other islands. And all the islands of human history and human civilization have appeared. And now this is the beginning of June, and an airship is roaring at the same time. And various high-level characters are being picked up, because in the East, they require all civilized rulers to participate in this meeting, and all people must participate. World Chronicle history records that in early June of the 20th year of Glacier, the Global Ancestral Dragon Rebirth Conference was launched by the East in Mount Tay. Nearly 5,000 giant armed airships were dispatched to the East, and then they flew to the world's 5,000 civilization-ruled islands. Civilization plate land, and this is called the first meeting before human history, one of the super memories of mankind, and the most memorable mega meeting in history, that is. In this year, the civilizations of the earth reappeared again, just like the Indian civilization, the ancient Roman civilization, and the ancient Western civilizations all came. On June 15th, the Oriental news is now divided into 3 news, namely Oriental Morning News, Oriental Evening News, and Oriental Midday News. There are 3 levels of news. The highest news is the Oriental Evening News, the most normal news is the Oriental Morning News, and the general news is the Oriental Midday News. On June 15th, at 5:30 in the afternoon, the Oriental Evening News released a burst of news, which was called SS. The news is as follows. The content of the news is obviously Ying Ziyue, as well as senior executives such as Weston Eric and Alex Rob. They stood in front of the camera interview and Alex spoke, "Gentlemen and ladies, I'm honored that I will participate in the next global mega conference. Now I believe in the power of the East. At the same time, I also look forward to the future of mankind, because here I have seen the most essential and strongest human beings. Great power. Eric is also standing straight. As a proud person, he is 18 years old this year, and now he is interviewed as an admirer. In this life and this world, the West will unconditionally cooperate with the East, and I will also unconditionally cooperate with the Zulang plan. At this moment, airships all over the world appeared, and some laser cannons were roaring, which was attacking some unruly island owners in this era when all the people must cooperate with the whole world. Ying Ziyue must all cooperate, because the earth is developing rapidly, and all those who do not conform to the times, he will let the laser cannon, and the physics will make those people surrender in July 20th. This is Mount Tay Point. Mount Tay. There are too many titles about Mount Tay Point. When the Ice Age came, countless blizzards began to submerge Mount Tay. Mount Tay was already submerged in the 5th year of the Ice Age. However, a group of robots were dispatched to the east for cleaning, and large-scale airships to clear snow. So Tyson it once again showed a majestic look. The ice and snow around Mount Tay have been piled up into icebergs. These icebergs are as high as Mount Tay. Therefore, now Mount Tay seems to be inside an iceberg. Under this extremely cold weather, it appears more and more powerful and more powerful. It is like a mountain of gods in ancient legends. There have been countless emperors here, and countless important events have been opened here, and now, the global conference in the east will also be opened here in Mount Tay Point. The wind and snow on Mount Tay, a place of human history, a great and shocking meeting, will be launched here. This can be called the most incredible meeting in history, because this meeting covered more than 6,000 island owners, high-level leaders, too many people. No one would have thought all this is just because of a piece of paper from the East Order, and then the world's elite come. This is the age of dreams. Chapter 333. In early July, Mount Tay completely became a bustling center. At the same time, before this meeting, Ying Ziyue was now standing at the highest point of the Great Wall of China. Behind him was Li Hao, who did not follow. Instead, behind him was followed by the principals of schools and the senior officials of the Education Society, because next, there will be nearly 5,000 islands, and a total of nearly 6,000 senior officials will come. So next he wants to make these 6,000 Westerners believe in the East. So the East must show the strongest strength. It takes 2 months for people from any region in the world to get together, and now there is still 1 month away from time. This month time Ying Ziyue wants to create a spiritual heritage that will shock everyone. Now the outer periphery of the east is the wall of steel, then the snow country train, and finally a set of icebergs that can protect against storms. Then the city of steel, airship icebreakers, icebreaker aircraft carriers, etc. Steel technology installations. As for the wind power made of steel, the generator steam pipes, the tall buildings, and so on are countless. These are just part of the strength of the East. What Ying Ziyue really does is to show the spirit and inheritance point, because the 6,000 senior leaders who will come next are all well educated, or born from tribal or aristocratic backgrounds. Everyone can become the island's manager, because in this period a foolish person cannot become a manager. Because this is an era that requires technology to survive. If you want to deter these people, you must have spiritual inheritance. Although the technological inheritance is powerful, it is not enough. Behind Ying Ziyue is the president of Nankai University, the president of King University, and the president of Fuda Point with the darkness of the sky. Some senior education leaders followed Ying Ziyue from the Great Wall to the Yanjing North Wall Conference Center. The Silver Conference and Conference Center is full of texture. In the meeting room, Ying Ziyue glanced at the crowd. Almost all the people present were seniors over 50. These people were the presidents of every university in the civilized period. Everyone was highly respected and respected. Once these old principals, the number of people was 500, and now it has become 300. Those 200 people disappeared in the wind and snow, and some disappeared in serving the country. The only thing left is this group of the most loyal old people, who are the greatest heritage of the Eastern education community. Ying Ziyue glanced at everyone, without any silence. He spoke directly. The next global conference is about to start, and that is the rebirth of Zulang. I think you also understand this plan, covering more than 6,000 civilized places around the world, covering nearly 3,000 engine factories around the world to be built, and the total number of people covered is close to 10 billion. That is to say, everyone on the earth must participate in this project. All civilizations must participate, and in the next month, there will be 6,000 civilization rulers, rulers of various high-level islands, rulers of land, etc. They will all come to the East in an airship. So next we have to let them know that the East is not only the legendary Snow Country train and Iron City, but also the Iron Wall. Now the East has reached a new level, that is, it has changed from technology to civilization, so the courses of all colleges and universities will begin to be upgraded. After Ying Ziyue finished speaking, 4 elliptical pictures appeared in front of everyone, namely, 4 disciplines respectively, and the next 4 disciplines that have been finalized and must be studied. The research time of this discipline is tentatively indefinite, that is, it is said that only after the Earth is truly out of security, there will be new disciplines after thousands of years of development. Now the next inheritance of the East is set. The first subject is science. This science refers to the future machines, the future orbits of the starry sky, the construction of the galaxy orbit system ladder, the manned spacecraft, etc. That is to say, every scientific research university in the East. Inside, all students must start to take this direction as the direction. The East will give them countless materials, countless plans, and countless know that they will travel in the ocean in the future of science. This is the first subject, and it is also the foundation of the East. The discipline of spiritual inheritance. Because of the advancement of science, can the East be more consolidated and long-lived? Point as for the second subject, the starry sky later. The human understanding of the starry sky is now within the solar system, so when the Earth is deep in dense galaxies, humans have no way to deal with the starry sky. In the next study of galaxies, that is the outer space migration, and the interstellar jump strike, etc. This is the research plan of the first-class civilization. This subject is to be handed over to the higher professors of the more professional starry field. This subject determines the next level of civilization of mankind. What is it in the end? Zero Fine Flowers. The third discipline is the Eastern Infrastructure discipline, and it is also the most solid, and has the longest heritage. Whether it started from the Great Wall of China 2,300 years ago, or more than 1,600 years ago, the prosperous Song Dynasty palaces began. It is telling the world that they have the best infrastructure, the best design, and the best style in the world. Then it has been passed down to modern times, and then the City of Steel appeared, and then the Wall of Steel appeared, and now the direction of infrastructure studies is the future atmosphere, focusing on future infrastructure, and then building the future infrastructure city, the space city. It's the third subject. Then the fourth one is medical science. Medical research is no longer just to cure diseases, but to improve the human body's limits, endurance, speed, strength, and cold resistance under larger conditions. The speed of the body and the red blood cells and white blood cells are also studied to improve the lifespan of the human body to a certain extent, the body's muscle-bearing capacity, and even the development of human intelligence, the development of life, and the development of new levels. When all the 4 disciplines appeared, Ying Ziyue bowed slightly. He looked at the professors, and every old man present. These old people were once proud. Their youth was born in the civilized period, and their years declined in the glacier century. However, their outbreak was in the Zhulang rebirth plan and the next 4 disciplines. So when Ying Ziyue stood up, nearly 300 principals of various colleges and universities, every old man stood straight in a sudden point. Starting at this moment, they once again felt the endurance and calling power of the motherland. Everyone once again felt the spirit of integration. They were with this great country. Ying Ziyue spoke, bowed and spoke, "Everyone, I will be with you next, and in the next month, more than 6,000 island rulers will see the invincible East." Death Chapter 334. Blizzard on July 15th. In the Ice Age, blizzard means it is a truly terrifying blizzard. The average snowfall can cover a small mountain, and the thickness of the precipitation is even close to 10 meters, which can be called a blizzard. Glacier under -50 degrees weather. After 20 years of the glacier, weather like this is very common. The cause of the blizzard is very simple. It is caused by the rise in temperature in the stratosphere and the eruption of ocean bottom volcanoes. Blizzards, ice age. There is very little heavy rainfall, and light snow falls most of the time. Human beings don't have any sense of smell for their own feelings, but all the people in the east can really feel the changes in the great powers with naked eyes. There is still half a month before the international conference, and within half a month Eric and the two western elites, Alex Rob, really felt the changes in the whole 337 body in the east. Here is Yenching at 6 o'clock in the morning. The sky has already lit up, and there are banners on the streets saying serving the glory of the country's great power. At the same time, various areas are equipped with test grounds, which turns the civilized basketball court into a test ground. Many elementary and middle school students are experimenting with some technological devices, such as artificial rockets and artificial satellite cylindrical mechanical vehicles. Every elementary school student starts to learn about mechanical science from an early age. Their learning is no longer a normal recitation of texts and learning OSSE formulas, but a truly new beginning. To be interested in scientific research. At the same time, in the east, nearly 200 steel cities, each of which is equipped with national level scientific research institutes. In these scientific research institutes, old professors of astronomy and starry sky began to make starry sky patterns, and then projected the starry sky. Began to observe the starry sky, looking to determine the location of the starry sky, temperature, etc. This seems to be a call to the astronomical starry sky. At the same time, the center of each city of steel is equipped with the National People's Hospital, and each People's Hospital is equipped with a special laboratory, which is called the Super Medical Laboratory. In this laboratory, doctors and professors are studying the life explosion of the Ice Age, and then they conduct biological tests, animal tests, preliminary tests on human ice, temperature cold air tests, hot air humidity, compression gravity tests, etc. This test begin to increase the cold resistance temperature of the human body, etc. in order to achieve the best and most suitable human evolution plan for the human body. At the same time, the ultimate goal of this test is to improve the activity of human organs and wait for the vitality of all organs in the body, so as to increase the lifespan of the human body. These are the three academic researches of mechanical medicine. Now all the people in the East are participating in the three academic researches. All professors and scientists have the same research direction. The media news presented in the news is all the same. The direction of the entire big country is beginning to move. Rigorous, lofty professional trend. 8 o'clock in the morning. The wind and snow have become even bigger. It is hard to imagine that under this extremely cold weather, the cities of iron and steel in the east are still undergoing expansion and construction. In the history of mankind, mankind has a passion for mechanical civilization. The soft spot, and now, has been the biggest manifestation. Here is Yanjing, the Great Wall of China, winding like a black dragon lying on the ground. In the Great Wall, Ying Ziyue is holding a black umbrella. He is standing quietly wearing a black robe. Two sons adopted by his parents followed behind him. These are his parents, the children adopted in the Ice Age. Two sons, and their families were once rescue captains. In a rescue, the parents of the two children disappeared, and then Ying Ziyue's parents adopted the two children. One child, one named Zhang Future, and the other named Chenzing Kang. They are both 15 years old this year, and both of them have fiery eyes. They looked at the big brother in front of him with some admiration. Regarding Ying Ziyue's deeds, every elementary school student in every city in the east understands Ying Ziyue's great achievements. Zhang Weiwei said, "Brother, what are we going to do next?" Ying Ziyue has nothing to say, because in the future, the education system in the east and various universities are already on the right track. The next thing to walk is machinery. In other words, after more than 6,000 Western civilization rulers come to the east, they will seeing the most perfect and complete direction of the east. In Ying Ziyue's line of sight, I saw the city of Oriental Yanjing. The city's exterior was already covered with black technological luster, and at the same time the luster of the past glossy paint was abundant. But now, the city wall has been installed with a call-up mechanism again. This mechanism can be understood as that the entire city can undergo wall barrier contraction in extremely dangerous situations and can protect the entire city to a certain extent. It can be used about once every 10 years. Once the guard is turned on, the city is similar. It is as indestructible as a giant mysterious tortoise and can defend against meteorites. The extreme cold weather is zero. In the city, wind turbines have long been transformed into sharp multi-leg generators. That is to say, on the huge blades of the wind turbine, small blades are installed again, and then smaller blades are installed on the small blades, like gears of different sizes, and then these gears are slowly rotating. Then this can be regarded as gravitational influence. That is, the gears rotate faster and faster. At the same time, the stability of the wind turbine sends telecommunication. At the same time, it also has the research type that can be used for large-scale science. The current wind turbines have surpassed the civilization period. Nuclear power plants are also safer and more cost-free. Electric trains are used in the city, which are divided into ground trains and underground trains. Electricity comes from wind turbines. The temperature, humidity, seaweed, etc. in each tall building come from wind turbines at the same time. Smart projection watch projections appeared in residential buildings on every city wall. At the same time, a small flying motorcycle. The fixed height of the flying motorcycle is about 50 meters. Because above the height of 50 meters, it has a blizzard atmosphere, snowstorms, and extremely cold airflows. This kind of airflow is suitable for flying motorcycles. The blow is very big. At the same time, outside the city of Yanjing, small flight backpacks also appeared. Flight backpacks are now mainly used for scientific research surveys, weather surveys, and armed patrols at this moment. With half a month's preparation, the 4 universities in the east, medicine, machinery, starry sky, and infrastructure are on track. Therefore, Ying Ziyue stood on the Great Wall, and he looked at Yanjing, this magical city. It has the perfect first-class civilization technology luster. Also has the steampunk style of the 1930s, and also has the majestic atmosphere of the ancient Oriental dynasties. He has everything, and now it is finally finalized. 20 years of the Ice Age, only for this finalization. Chapter 335. Since ancient times, humans have looked up at the stars, built lighthouses in the ocean, and began to name them by the moonlight. The Big Dipper, the sky and the earth are mysterious and yellow. The universe is prehistoric. Spring comes in summer, autumn harvest and winter collection. Long white rabbits, walking from east to west. Clothes are not as good as new. People are not old, etc. There are countless words about the starry sky. There are too many videos about blizzard, such as the Crucian carp crossing the river. If you come to Xihai late, you can drink a cup of nothing. But now it is a blizzard that can't be described in any vocabulary, because this is the most terrifying blizzard in history, covering the north and south of the world. It is early August, and the temperature is -49 degrees. 5-point blizzard has become a big blizzard. A big blizzard means that a day's precipitation can submerge a 20-meter high building. It means that the snow in the sky is no longer in the form of hail, but is similar to a scoop of snow, a horrible snowflake madness. Splash, record every area wantonly. And here is the beginning of August, and at the same time, this time is also the beginning of the next International Zero to Conference. At this moment, I saw the eastern sky changed. Outside the eastern border, the sky changed from grey to black. The black mottled spots were visible to the naked eye. The black is like a cloud of dark clouds, but when it gradually approaches, it is discovered that there are countless airships. One after another airships with red flags appeared. More and more airships began to appear from all over the world, and more than 6,000 island owners from all over the world came. At this moment, these island owners entered the eastern border defense line for the first time. Then, they saw the majestic iceberg at first sight, and finally the island owner from Artis couldn't help but speak in shock. Oh my god, they turned the snow into majestic icebergs, and all those blizzards turned into icebergs. The island owner from Harris State was also shocked, because as the speed was getting faster and faster, he saw that in front of the icebergs, one by one, the giant red Gundam robots were actually cleaning the snow. The scene in this scene is not only shocking but also unbelievable, because giant robots are cleaning the snow, and the snow is quickly cleaned up. The Gundam robot shows the glory of science and technology. In front of those icebergs, the Gundam robot quickly, while sweeping the snow, the rows of robots have perfect cleaning steps. The picture of this scene is extremely stunning and shocking. At the same time, with the speed of the airship, these people are getting more and more looking forward to the east, because since the appearance of the airship, they know that the east is powerful. Oh my god. For 20 years on the glacier, the east will actually be so strong. This is the Ice Age. Now our civilization is close to the steam civilization, but the east has directly reached the scientific and technological civilization, which is simply unimaginable. More and more exclamations grew louder and louder, and at the same time, the airship flew to the first giant city in the east point. This is the Guangqing in the east. The first thing that appeared was the walled city wall. The black textured city wall was tall and mighty. At the same time, a black solar panel was emitting light. Everyone on the airship felt a warm atmosphere. Bashing. Later, shocking buildings appeared, because in the middle of this steel city, they saw a 3,000 meter high wind turbine equipped with thousands of gear structures at the same time. The sound of broadcasting sounded on every plane. Island owners, good morning, everyone. Next, I will head to Mount Te. As the god of the 5 sacred mountains in the east and a place of meditation in ancient times, this place will also be the main center of the global conference. Next, the airship will go to Mount Te. Island owners, get ready. After the broadcast was over, the airship began to rise. At this moment, the airship was flying at an altitude of 800 meters, and then the island owners at the airship viewing platform looked down with fear, because they saw a flying motorbike roaring. The flying motorbike exhaled white smoke, marking one beautiful track after another in the air, and then, each last flying motorbike was planted with a red flag, following the air patrol. Then the direction of the flying motorcycle was Mount Te, and the groups of flying motorcycles looked like a flock of bees. The closer you are to Mount Te, the more you can feel the shock of the east, because under you is the Great Wall, and there are beautiful lighthouses. The Great Wall is like a black dragon on the ground, and the lighthouse is like the eye of the earth in the east, embellished along the planet. The lighthouse shines with light point, and above the sea, icebreakers, aircraft carriers, etc. all appeared. The largest icebreaker aircraft carrier showed terrifying power to ride the wind and waves on the sea point. At the same time, the snow on the ground is getting less and less. Everyone knows that this is a reason for approaching Mount Te, and a whistling sound came from the sky again. When the island owner looked down from the viewing platform, they saw it. Groups of eastern soldiers. They were wearing flight backpacks, and the jetpack engines made roaring noises. At the same time, they were flying in midair wearing flight backpacks, and bursts of red smoke passed by behind them. On the ground, the snow has been cleared long ago, and icebergs have long been built to look like various ancient historical figures in the east. At the same time, the roads in the east have become more and more straight. On this road, red chariots, ice-breaking tanks, huge trucks, etc. appeared one after another. One after another there are convoys on the ground and groups of patrol airships in the sky. At this moment, the eastern convoy, the flying team, the flying motorcycle team, the icebreaker carrier icebreaker on the sea, and all the teams are in the former Mount Te. All the pictures and all the military are in Mount Wute. Nearly 6,000 island owners felt trembling. They did not expect that after the Ice Age, there would be such a terrifying country with military power. The sky was about to break before dawn, and arrived at Mount Te in the east. It is rare to see a little morning light in the east during the blizzard weather, and the morning light shines on Mount Te. At this moment, more than 6,000 airships slowly hovered in the air. While approaching the top of Mount Te, the more than 6,000 island owners also saw the top of Mount Te. Standing was a middle-aged man in a black robe. His hair became white. He stood quietly, with rows and rows behind him. Row of laser cannons afterwards. This person slowly raised his right hand, as if it were a sign of instruction. As he raised his right hand, the eastern artillery chariots, flying motorcycles, etc. began to gather, and then gathered into the eastern chariot team. Everyone knows at this moment, the central figure of this great international conference that spans the chronicles has appeared. Dongfang Ying Ziyue. He is here. The mountains and seas roared, and the wind and snow were endless. The world changes, gathers Mount Te. Chapter 336. It is now in early August, that the thunder is shining, the cold wind is torn apart, and the sky is struck by waves of storms. 20 years after the Ice Age, the Earth's weather has long ceased to be normal natural weather. The most normal weather is thunderstorms. A piece of thunderstorm cloud covers the sky. When the thunder and lightning are shining, there are almost 10,000 kilometers of lightning. Will cover this kind of picture. Very strange point, but now, the weather in Mount Tay is not good, because as long as the earth is in a dense galaxy, its weather will be such extreme weather. Water spouts in the ocean, tornadoes on the ground, etc. will appear. And now the weather in Mount Tay is a huge thunderstorm. I saw the sky above Mount Tay. The sky was gloomy. Now it is 12 o'clock noon, but the weather is gloomy. Lightning strikes wantonly, but the majestic Mount Tay, the tall one. At the same time, huge lightning rods have been built on every peak of Mount Tay. Because the next important meeting is to be followed, all safety must be ensured. Point now in the sky, a giant airship has also opened the defense mechanism to avoid thunderstorms. The Eastern airship thought about how to travel through thunderstorms when it was built. Now it is equipped with a lightning trigger and super insulating materials. These two steps can achieve basic air safety flight. Current time, August of the 20th year of the Ice Age, August 2nd, 12 o'clock noon. At this moment, nearly 6,757 airships were suspended in the sky at a height of 1,237 meters. This kind of picture cannot be recorded with any lens, because any lens cannot be taken completely. There are nearly 6,000 airships, like black spots and giant flying eagles in the sky. There is only the roar of the propellers in the sky, and on the highest peak of Mount Taishan, after Ying Ziyue's appearance appeared, the more than 6,000 island owners present all had complex expressions at this critical moment. Ying Ziyue raised her little hand lightly. At this moment, the atmosphere of the audience began to change fiercely. As soon as Ying Ziyue raised his hand, the thunder was getting louder and louder, and his voice rang. In the 20th year of the Eastern Ice Age, the Global International Conference, the Zhulang Rebirth Plan, and the Enrollment Plan, the military exercises in the East began. After Ying Ziyue said these words, it was like opening a Pandora's box. The East has stored it for nearly 20 years. All its power is for the display of this moment, and for the next protection, and now it is only the first step. The show is enough to make everyone amazed, and now the show is open. Behind Ying Ziyue, the main peak of Mount Tay, are rows of laser cannons. When Ying Ziyue waved her right hand and fell, the laser cannons were shot into the sky suddenly. Boom, boom boom boom, boom 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 boom. The sky and the earth seemed to change color, and a laser device directly hit the sky, then hit 2,000 meters, and then burst. The sky directly rippled, and almost every laser cannon fired. The sky would form a small thunderstorm field. It can be said that one by one thunderstorms appeared in the sky above Ying Ziyue, and then connected with the natural thunderstorms in the sky. As if a god was manipulating the supernatural. At the same time, this is just the beginning of military exercise, and rows of Ice Age tanks and Ice Age machine gun chariots have appeared on the ground. There are nearly 1,000 protective tanks in rows. These tanks are neatly arranged. The barrel is facing the quartet. Boom. Nearly 1,000 new tanks fired their guns. The picture in this scene is like a shot of 1,000 arrows, but it is countless times more powerful than a shot of 10,000 arrows with all the island owners. The moment they fired the cannon, the more than 6,000 island owners felt that the air was stagnant, because there was only one sound left in the sky. At the same time, the icebergs that had just appeared in the blizzard around Mount Tay were all shattered. The icebergs on the ground were all shattered by tanks. Those so-called harder stone icebergs were all wiped out into slag. This is the power of the new Ice Age tank. The platoon guns were also fired in series. The sky they fired belonged to exercise flash bombs. The gloomy sky was forced to fire bombs again. The sky became extremely bright. At the same time, infantry chariots appeared on the ground. These broken chariots did not carry out armed strikes, but lined up one after another, and then roared forward like a wild ancient beast. At the same time, more than 6,000 island owners saw the eastern coast from the airship viewing platform, and icebreaker ships of icebreakers also sent out the sound of laser cannons, which blasted directly above the sea. I saw waves of several hundred meters high on the sea began to be blown up, and waves of hundreds of meters high flew up. The picture of this scene is even more terrifying. Those waves flying up are terrifying and stunning. Next to the sea, the steel wall surrounding the sea also slightly lit up and began to glow red. This light led to the opening of the national meeting. The steel wall covered 3 sea areas with a total length of nearly 5,000 kilometers. This light, almost like the eyes of the earth, suddenly opened the phone. At the same time, outside the steel wall, there was the track of the snow country train, and the sound of humming was also heard from the track. I saw the snow country train also lit up with a red light, and the entire giant body also lit up with a red light, and then snow country the train roared, and started to move on the track. Snow country trains began to travel around the country. The steel wall began to travel around the sea. Above the ground, infantry fighting vehicles formed an army formation. Ice Age tanks and ice mortars were still firing into the sky. The whole day, Goodzeo was empty and the entire eastern land was like a giant resurrected. It is also like a lion resurrected, showing incomparably vigorous vitality. Later, more than 6,000 island owners were shocked again, because this was their picture. When they saw the eastern steel city, the walls of each city began to glow red, and the city gates began to close tightly. Point on the periphery of the city wall. Gundam robots are cleaning the snow while escorting them. Some giant cities are coastal cities, some are inland cities, southern cities, northern cities, and so on. Every steel city is completely open for protection. All began to glow with fighting spirit and vitality. At this moment, everyone felt that, even if the sky was darker, even if they were facing the most danger, but at this moment, the East revived. It was like a giant, and then told the world, he is here, he has fought, he is not fear. Chapter 337. The sky completely changed from black to silver. Silver represented countless laser cannons, artillery shells, and the impact of steel cities. It can be said that the military forcefully used military power to directly let the weather continue. Turned white. Point. So it is daylight now. Point. At the same time, this military exercise completely changed the expressions of more than 6,000 island owners. They changed from being a little awkward to fear and trembling, because in this era of retrogressive civilization, no one thought of it. The civilization of the East has not regressed, but has been savagely promoted. Point. Later, more than 6,000 island owners made a contact in the airship. In less than half an hour, 3 island owners came out. They represented more than 6,000 island owners. They came out in small airships. They were Tektronix from North Glacier, Nick from the Southern Glacier, Stamen from the Atlantic. Point. Now these 3 people are responsible for the opening of the conference. When they reached the top of Mount A, they also saw Ying Ziyue standing quietly. Point. Then the 3 bowed slightly. Introduction. I'm Ying Ziyue, the chief engineer of the Eastern Snow Country train, etc. Next, the Zhulang rebirth plan will also be created by me, and I will also be the chief engineer of this plan for the last time, because I'm 40 years old now, Ying Ziyue said. His hair is now white, and he doesn't have the greasiness of middle-aged people, and some only have sharp edges. He looks extremely crisp, decisive, and vigorous, like a thunder. When he is decisive. Point. As he spoke, he first stood on the top of Mount A, and then pointed to the world. Behind him, Engineer Lee Heo took out the forms one by one, and the Engineer Lee Heo spoke, and at the same time, projected the world. Point. This is a picture of the construction of the first giant engine factory on Kawasaki Island. Point. Engineer Lee Heo spoke. Next, the first is the new engine plan, that is, the giant engine. Next, there will be a total of nearly 100,000 planetary engines, covering any region, and any region in the world. The engine will be built on icebergs, on high ground, on the ocean as in the northern and southern glaciers, but also in the crater, etc. Now the construction of the first giant engine factory in Kawasaki has been completed, and the next goal will be to build 100,000 giant engines, Lee Heo said, and at the same time he performed a void projection. In the projection, the 100,000 mark points around the world are extremely clear, and each mark point is gathered in the world. It can be said that every area of the circular earth is scattered, just like this earth. Behind the scenes, huge engines are installed on the left and right. When this picture appeared, the expressions of all the high levels present began to change. Tech raised his hand slightly. He is the heir to the Western Chibal, and one of the largest island masters, but now in the East, he feels a shiver in front of the Zhulang city plan. Can this really be done? A total of 100,000 giant power generation engine factories are covered. Does this require everyone in the world to mobilize together? After Tech spoke, Engineer Li Hao and Ying Ziyue both nodded. Yes, this plan is called the Zhulang Rebirth Project, and it will cover the whole world. Everyone in the world must participate. Ying Ziyue's voice is extremely firm, and also extremely powerful. Judging from all the things he has faced against disasters, any behavior or action is decisive, straightforward, and vigorous. The second plan is the West, Eric of the Eagle Country, and Alex Robb, the Country of Roses. These two big countries will be responsible for going to the moon, to build a laser station. At the same time, the East will give them technicians as technical support, and their tasks it is the moon, to build a huge observatory, to observe the crisis facing the Earth next, and the crisis of the Earth's escape from the dense galaxy. This is their plan. After Ying Ziyue spoke, Eric of the Eagle Nation bowed slightly and nodded, and Alacrit of the Rose Nation also nodded. At this moment, the three island masters, Tech, Stimon, and Loke, are the three strongest. The island owners' expressions changed again. They did not expect that the two strongest countries in the West had agreed to this plan, and the last three had no choice but to nod their heads. The third item is that more than 6,000 islands are all merged into one island, and the mission of these islands is to first cooperate with the construction of a giant engine factory, and secondly select some personnel to go to Mars to build a cosmic laser cannon. This will be the Earth going out, the biggest weapon in the dense galaxy. After the engineer Li Hao spoke, the faces of the three island owners present changed drastically. Texted up. His face was blue, because all of them had changed from more than 6,000 island owners to one island owner, and it was obvious that some people had lost their rights. So he spoke directly. I reject this behavior. I think the situation is pretty good. Now, Techronix said. Ying Ziyue's face was blue, and he narrowed his eyes slightly. Then, an airship in the sky fired a miniature laser shock, and Tech was instantly turned into a blood mist. Then Ying Ziyue looked at everyone. This is a plan that a group of humans must take. This is the best way for human civilization to advance. Then more than 6,000 islands held a meeting, and on the airship, 80% of the people chose to agree. At 12:30 in the morning of August 20th of the Ice Age, the Eastern Zhulang Rebirth Project was officially launched, and the first international super conference in the world was officially opened. Ying Ziyue is the chief engineer of the Zhulang project. The deputy engineer is Li Hao. Engineer number 1 is Eric. Project number 2 is for Alex Robb, and project number 3 is for Oriental Research Institute. At this moment, the history of mankind begins to move towards the universe. Everything is unknown. No one knows what will happen next, but they only know one thing, that is, civilization has completely changed from this moment on. It is August 10th, and a week after the meeting, Mount Te has no military protection, and the place is gradually submerged by snow again. While the Great Wall of Yanjing in the east is still winding, high above, the Gundam robot cleans the snow regularly every day. And on the Great Wall, Ying Ziyue leads a group of people forward. They seem to have crossed this section of the Great Wall era. At the same time, every steel city in the east now emits a red light, which can be called the light of technology. At this moment, countless words appeared in the chronicles. Some people are born to be kings, some are born to be heroes, but for some people, he has devoted his life, and his life's mission is like this. Ying Ziyue married a big country with a lifetime employment. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 338. Early September of the 20th year of the Ice Age. This is a very important date. First of all, more than 6,000 island owners gathered in Yanjing. At the same time, for this Zhulang Rebirth project, the Oriental Culture Propaganda Department spent a year and a half to shoot a movie, and now this movie will also be available play before this master plan. The name of this movie is At This Moment the World Enters the Ice Age. This is a large-scale documentary film that was subsequently shot, based on Ying Ziyue's life trend, combined with the whole people. In the Current era. There are no well-known stars, so this movie selects the overall disaster record of the war against the Eastern powers. It took a year and a half to prove the strength of this movie. It was 18 years in Glacier. The cultural department made an application form, and Ying Ziyue also accepted the interview with the cultural team to confirm the film. Now, before the Zhulang Rebirth project, the filming of the film has finally been completed. So, before the whole people start again, this movie, it represents a spiritual heritage of the East. The world's island owners and high-level leaders around the world will see this movie because in the future, they will know from this movie what level the East has reached. On September 5th, Dongcheng Evergrande Cinema. The location of the cinema is very large. There are close to 3,000 locations in total. The movie screen adopts a full return projection with 7D glasses, which means that wearing the glasses is as if you are alone in the movie world. This is one of the technological skills of the East in the field of film and film. And now the atmosphere is a bit dignified because it is September 5th. Every movie theater here is full. More than 6,000 island owners have prepared their positions, all wearing glasses, and in the first row of movie theater, the first position, a middle-aged man in a black robe with some half-white hair. He looked at the beginning of the movie's name, feeling very melancholy. The movie began with only a few sentences at the beginning. At this moment, the world has entered the Ice Age. At the same time, a series of fonts appeared. Next, the world will enter the Ice Age. Mankind will face the most deadly threat, volcanic tornado, earthquake, and so on. A series of crises will come, and finally the Ice Age will erupt, and the world will once again enter the fourth Ice Age. This is the Ice Age of 1.12 million years ago. There were signs of a small Ice Age in the Ming Dynasty, and now it's finally coming, with the reappearance of lonely pictures. It is a peaceful age where there is no city, grass and woods outside the suburbs. The film production team cannot find such a place in the contemporary Glacier world, and can only shoot indoors in the film. Everything is so natural in the peaceful era, but the air pollution is higher and the pressure per capita is higher. Later, they saw a teenager named Ying Ziyue appear. The young man came to his parents and asked his mom that her mom was an official in the General Warehouse of Foreign Affairs and Cargo Transportation. Mom, if some big things happen next, the whole country is united, and at the same time, some unrelated people are driven out, and no longer go to the West to buy materials, and no longer sell materials to the West, then can the East do it within half a year? The material supply, and develop on their own. This is a movie line that Ying Ziyue has personally experienced. The scene of this scene is the beginning. When Ying Ziyue said this, the expressions of more than 6,000 island owners in the movie theater have changed. Now they know why the East is so terrifying, because disasters have already erupted. Before, an evil spirit appeared in the East, and this evil spirit was ready. Then Ying Ziyue's mother spoke, and she said directly, "Half a year? Are you kidding me? In 2 years, our country can support it for 2 years, because here is the East, the most invincible East." Then in the movie, Ying Ziyue went to meet an old man. Then from this picture, they only sought to label titles on Ying Ziyue. First, the chief engineer of Snow Country Train Construction, and second, the chief engineer of Steel City Construction. Then Ying Ziyue ordered that the first step is to close the border and expel unrelated people afterwards. It was a vigorous purge of people. Only the Orientals were left in this ancient eastern land. After the border crossing was closed, the attitudes of countries around the world toward the East were very strange, and there were countless doubts, ridicules, anger and so on. And the story of this movie really kicked off. This scene is extremely well made, as if it were actually substituted. Then the picture changed again. When it came to the construction of the Snow Country train, when Ying Ziyue proposed the Snow Country train plan, everyone in the East was shocked, and everyone in the West was questioned, because no one thought that he would actually propose this one, to go around the country. Giant train. This train plan is too terrifying. The horror is to the extreme, and the horror is unbelievable for everyone. Zero Fine Flowers still in the cinema. Alex Roth, a senior in the Rose Country, smiled bitterly. He was surrounded by the 3 major island owners, and then he spoke. "Now do you know why the East has successfully resisted one disaster after another? Because their chief engineer is terrible. He has the talent and ability to speak language like a super school master. He calculated the overall information change from many tens of thousands of years ago. He is a real man who can be called shy and geo-perverted. For Alex Robb, he never praised a person so much because he was proud of his personality, or she would always believe that he was invincible. But after his Ying Ziyue's direction was released, he became silent. NS0 because at this moment, he knew what a real genius is. The real genius is hell. It is not just to resist a disaster, but has a comprehensive genius and enchantment and other fields of disposal methods. The young Ying Ziyue did what he had dreamed of everything. Point in the subsequent pictures, the new success of the snow country train. When the giant snow country train began to travel, everyone was shocked. Point at the same time, more and more shocking things appeared. That is, people in coastal cities began to evacuate, and finally, a tsunami broke out in coastal cities, and this scene was just the beginning. Point then formally began to build huge greenhouses. As a logistics base, the country's food began to be transported to major cities across the country again, and ice-breaking aircraft carriers began to be scattered in various southern cities, and a city in the east began to be overthrown, and new steel cities began to be built. When this process appeared, everyone only felt trembling. It turns out that there really is such a country in this world. They are never afraid, never afraid. Point it turns out that there really is such a wicked man in this world. He will always be on the front line in this command. He has not entangled any woman or cares about any trivial matters. He just wants to do things well, honestly, and cleanly. Point he only wants to do one thing, and that is to survive. Survive. The survival of the whole nation. Death chapter 339. At the first position in the first row of Dongcheng Evergrande Cinema, the middle-aged man in the black robe laughed. Ying Ziyue laughed, and his parents sat next to him. Now these two old people are also old. Point before, these two old people were 40 years old, and then these two old people are over 60 years old. The two old people are smiling happily. Their smiles are extremely comfortable and worth it, and they are really worth it in this life. Ying Ziyue is also laughing. Even if he has no love in his life, it is worth it. Because he thought of a sentence. Some people are heavier than Mount A, some are as light as a feather, and some are dead, but he lives in people's hearts, and some people live, but people treat him as dead. Point with a smile. Ying Ziyue thought of the beginning. He remembered that at the beginning, the Ice Age swallowed everything of mankind, and also swallowed all the evidence of the existence of human beings. All of mankind has been swallowed. 3, 4, 0. Everything all disappeared, and the afterglow of mankind completely dissipated. Point in fact, he remembers the original dream, but now this dream has changed. It has become that he devoted his whole life and brought all mankind to struggle all the way. There were many friends and scientific research scholars along the way. However, this nation's the spirit is still there. The pride of this nation is still there. So he laughed. He laughed. Everything is still there. Everything is worth it. Now Ying Ziyue comes home every night. He will light her incense, and now miss those old friends. Some old friends disappear when they go out. The old friend had an accident in building the machine, and in the end it seemed that he was the only one left. Point it seems to have always been. Point the scenes of the movie continued. With the roar of thunder, the cities of steel in the east began to kick off. Point at the same time, the sky began to snow violently. This is a picture of the movie. The shadow night in the mirror is also the most beautiful, but it is a bit cloudy. Point. But that is what every old scientist knows in their memory of Ying Ziyue's incomparable beauty and strong masculinity. But his appearance is hard to find in the east, so it is appropriate to find a yin and beautiful one. The movie screen is in the middle. Point it was when the blizzard came for more than 10 days in a row. Everyone in the movie theater saw the documentary and knew that the cold wave in the east was coming. Point sure enough, blizzards roared and the world was hit by disasters, followed by a cold wave and crackling. The most tragic scene in history went out. In this scene, humans are like ants. Humans need to tremble under this kind of picture, or resist like the East. Point however, in the city of steel in the east, standing majestically in the wind and snow, the snow country train roared. Point at this moment, they knew how much preparation Dongfang had made, and now, the movie is only halfway there. Point Eric of the Eagle Nation held back for a long time. His eyes were extremely melancholy. Now watching this movie and watching Ying Ziyue, he speaks complicatedly. It turns out that this world really has such enchanting people. I even think that such enchanting people do not belong to the earth, to the east, and to all mankind. He should belong to extraterrestrial life and higher life, because I have never seen such a melancholy person. He truly dedicated his whole life to this country and to this nation. This is a spirit of dedication. In the illusions of countless characters and countless documentaries I have watched, there has never been a comparable to him, because he is the first person I have seen alive and dedicated a lifetime. The second plan I have never seen is so bold, or can be called crazy. That is to make a snow country train and the city of steel. These two plans are both in the civilized period and in the present period. I can't do it. In the current history of mankind, I have never seen such a person. Eric was smiling bitterly. He smoked one cigarette after another. Now he doesn't have the spirit of genius, only calmness, because in this world, all geniuses, all self-righteous talent geniuses, and elites with high IQ, etc., everything, all people who think they are capable are all conquered. All must be quiet, all honest actually, because as long as he was there, Ying Ziyue would be convinced of all the geniuses monsters, powerful control, and crazy resistance. In the consciousness of all geniuses, they have never thought that they will meet such a perfect person in this life, and they are a person without any shortcomings. Not greedy for money, not lustful. It seems that this life is for this confrontation. Exhausted the power of this life, so in the face of such a saint, some of them can only surrender zero. If the movie continues to the last step, say goodbye. This is the arrival of the cold wave. The city of Eastern Steel is shining slightly. The city of Steel is engaged in an explosive confrontation, and the cold wave bursts everything. And the final scene ends when the scene ends. Not only the Yanjing cinema, but also thousands of large cinemas in more than 400 cities across the country are all quiet. That is, from this moment point in the eastern sky, huge black flags were planted on the airships. This flag represents the protagonist's surname and the surname of the first emperor of the ancient Qin dynasty. The black color also represents the military medal of Ying Ziyue point. At the same time, countless new buildings and countless lighthouses at this moment began to use Ying's surname as their first name. This is a commemoration of the highest merit point, but now it's getting darker and darker. 10 minutes after the movie is over, the talents of the movie theater are gradually walking out. The street was dark. At the entrance of Evergrande Cinema in Yanjing East City, Ying Ziyue walked out alone. He was followed by dozens of bodyguards and engineer Li Heyo, but they were all 10 meters behind Ying Ziyue because now they know that Ying Ziyue is complicated. On the street, Ying Ziyue walks silently, and the snow in the sky is getting bigger and bigger. He looked at this magical steam-style city until he walked to the gate of the cinema and saw a sign hung on it. This is the promotional image of the global entering Ice Age movie poster. The propaganda picture is surprisingly a young character played by Ying Ziyue, who is handsome in appearance and is called Tang Long. Ying Ziyue glanced at him on the poster. Her voice was faint, and then she smiled. "You will never be me. There will always be only one me in this world." Then Ying Ziyue turned his head and looked again. Those friends who fought with her in the outside world, and those friends who fought with him in the Scientific Research Institute disappeared and disappeared. But he felt that these people were still there, and they were all integrated with him. It seemed that he was the only one left in the world, and his voice allowed his back to disappear, as if only his sigh was left between the world and the earth. Now it's snowing. Chapter 340. The New World begins. First of all, in August of the 20th year of the Ice Age, the East issued the Zhulang Rebirth Plan, a global international conference. Finally, this conference received the support of all major high levels around the world, and the major island owners agreed. This is called the Zhulang Rebirth Project. In the end, in September, the rebirth plan of the Dragon Group was launched perfectly, and nearly 6,000 island owners around the world ruled all to go. This is a real feast, and it is also an empty and great feast that can be recorded in history. This is called one of the nationwide meetings. That is to say, since the beginning of September 20th of the Ice Age, the world's top executives have gathered, and more than 6,000 island owners around the world have become an island owner. He is the chief engineer Li Hao. Li Hao is not only the deputy engineer of the Zhulang Rebirth project, but also the person in charge of the Western Global Islands, because for Ying Ziyue, he believes in these people with the same bloodline and the blood of Yan Huang. He believes that Mr. Zhu grew up people. And now the first part of the Zhulang Rebirth plan has officially begun. At this moment, the world will record and remember this date, because it is the 10th month of the 20th year of the Ice Age, which is 1 month after the Zhulang Rebirth plan. Now this is the solar system. If you look at the Earth with the naked eye, you will see the Earth is in a sea of sand. From the perspective of the universe, the Earth is like being in a pile of sand, but no one knows that every grain of sand is a star, and it is extremely huge. This is a picture of the universe, which means that the Earth is now in this chaotic galaxy. In this galaxy, due to the influence of the black hole's gravity, there are countless groups of meteorites and meteor swarms in chaotic orbits, and these meteor swarms are shining rapidly one after another, flying by one after another. This is the most stunning scene. It looks shocking, majestic. The sky is black, thunder roars, lightning thunderbolts. Everything that the world witnessed reappeared one by one. And the small planet in the east, which was originally silver, began to gradually move toward the azure blue, just like the civilized world Earth. With the luster of the civilization period, looking stunning and shocking. But everyone knows that the Earth still maintains a temperature of -50 degrees, and the countless plants on the Earth are left from the east during the Cambrian layout, which means that they are all cold resistant plants, seaweed, etc. The Earth is still the same now, but Dongfang is trying to make him change. And now, here is the Great Wall of the East. Above the Great Wall, the engineer Li Hao is wearing a flying backpack, and flying with the flying backpack, he starts to look at the east and enter a new era. Behind him is the Eagle Country Eric and the Rose Country Alex Roth, as well as a series of senior executives in the west. These people are following him. As for the core of Ying Ziyue, he needs to sit in the east and observe the overall situation as the chief engineer. He is the chess player of the era. After experiencing the fun of flying backpack, Li Hao started to board the airship, and the airship began to fly. This is an airship similar to the F-12. After boarding the airship, the group of people began to go to Kawasaki Island. Then the airship arrived at Kawasaki Island. Now this island, a black giant engine nearly 300 meters high stands, and around the engine are workers' factories, living quarters, residential quarters, infrastructure areas, and agricultural crop irrigation areas. It can be said that a small civilization gathering place appeared around this giant engine. Behind the engineer Li Hao stood the person in charge of the legendary island. His name is Zhao Liting, Mr. Li Hao. First I will introduce a giant engine. The engine of the engine now has a power of less than 12 million yuan. The height of the engine is meters. The overall engine kinetic energy is divided into 7 parts. They are propulsion energy and separate nuclear fusion, as well as thermal kinetic energy, electric energy, natural kinetic energy, which means that if you want to start this engine, you must activate this period of kinetic energy, and then you can start all of them. When this kinetic energy is activated, the engine will take the form of a radiating hand and begin to push away from the center of gravity of the Earth, and then a terrifying engine impetus will erupt. Subsequently, there will be a slight push in the ozone layer, stratosphere, etc. That is to say, when this is turned on, the Earth will tremble and tremble slightly, almost very small. This is just a very small reaction, but this reaction is very important. When this reaction starts, and then 100,000 in the world react together as engines, finally the Earth can complete a slow flight. After Zhao Liting finished speaking, the airship went on and went to the Rose Country. This country has completely changed. The East sent a Gundam robot, giant Gundam robots, all with red flags. The Gundam robot is cleaning up snow. I saw pieces of snow were cleaned up, and icebergs were cleaned up. Subsequently, the construction of the second generator engine plant began. On this land, there was a roaring sound from the sky. This Eastern Ice Age tank is being cleaned up. On the land of Rose Country, a giant number 2 engine has also begun to be built. From the airship, you can overlook the clear picture of the Rose Country. There is no towering steel city, and there is no rolling steel wall. The lighthouse above the ground is completely lacking. The civilization here is more like ancient times. Clan civilization looks extremely desolate, because if a country wants to complete a leap similar to the East-West-East, it must pay for nearly 20 years, as well as the resistance of the civilization period. This is an extremely sad era. All countries in the world want to emulate the East. However, all countries cannot achieve the power of the East. So this is a sad era. But now, the engineer Xihai looked at the land of the Rose country, and he raised his hand slightly. Who said that this is a sad era? Next, starting from the East, the world will develop under the glory of the East. On this land, everyone will know that there is only one power in the world, and that is from the red, the power of, we are civilized, we machine, we create, we develop, we reclaim the land, we build the city of steel, the train and the snow country, and now we are about to complete one of the greatest miracles in history. Start from this moment on, let the 100,000 giant engines roar bay. Engineer Xihai finished speaking, then he bowed slightly, then he faced the direction of the east, and then bent down. This is what Ying Ziyue told him, that is humility. He must be humble in front of the east, and he will maintain its arrogance in front of other countries in the world. A gentleman is like the wind, nothing more than that. Chapter 341. October 1st National Day. Celebrate the whole world and everyone cheers. Even in the 20th year of the Ice Age, the National Day is still a day worth celebrating. Bunches of fireworks from Oriental Yanjing began to fly in, with the sound of firecrackers and fireworks. The temperature is still 50 degrees below zero, but the fireworks in the sky are flying. These are special fireworks, otherwise it would not be possible to ignite and explode in such a zero-point environment. Exploding bright fireworks, but even so, the beautiful fireworks cannot help but be amazed. And this is just the beginning. The sound of gongs and drums sounded on Yanjing Street. And there were even lion dances in every household. The sound resounded in the mountains and seas. The sound of firecrackers and drums are all resounding. It can be said that every household has come to celebrate. First of all, the Oriental Zulan project has begun. This plan is limited to 2 years. At the same time, the East has also entered the Cambrian life explosion, and the normal advanced social civilization is moving towards the era, a new era of technological mecha. This era should not be called the future era, but it should be called the post-civilization 20 years after the catastrophe. This is Yanqing now, the high-rise residential building for scientific research, where the families of the major high levels of the scientific research company live in this building. In 2001, this room has a total area of 203,400 square meters, and in this room Ying Ziyue is sitting on the sofa and watching TV. Next to Ying Ziyue are his parents. The two old people are in their 70s or 80s, but they are still young. First of all, in the 20 years of the Ice Age, many breakthroughs have been made in Eastern medicine, and great progress has been made in increasing the lifespan of the human body and the resistance to sub-0 degrees Celsius muscle activity, life activity, blood activity, bone activity, as well as calcium, iron, vitamins, etc. Supplements have made great progress in circulation. Therefore, the basic human lifespan is developing rapidly, so the 80-year-old is still not dazzled and deaf, walking vigorously. As for the silver on the sofa, although her hair is slightly white, she still has no wrinkles on her skin and her body is as strong as a big tiger. This time Ying Ziyue watched TV. There was only one picture on the TV, which was a farewell broadcast of the harvest in every city in the East. First of all, the major factories in the South include clothing factories, leather bags factories, leather factories, and cold weapons factories, tool factories, manufacturing factories, kitchen knife factories, GUO factories, furniture factories, etc., all of which are making great harvests. One farmland in the north. There are also fruit fields, farmed poultry, pheasants, wild boars, ducks, and so on, as well as those fruits, Ice Age watermelons, grapes, mangosteens, strawberries, raisins, kiwis, tomatoes, a series of cucumbers, and so on all appeared. In other words, everything that appeared in the civilization period is appearing here, because in the East, the layout of factories in the South is huge. An industrial corridor has been laid out before, and it is best displayed in this industrial corridor. The northern layout is the agricultural corridor. The agricultural corridor in the east and the agricultural corridor in the north are officially on the subject, so the big harvest, the big unloading, and so on are visible to the naked eye. It can be said that a series of good harvest texts were written on the TV screen. The factory in the south has a good harvest, the agriculture in the north, and the family has a good harvest. At the same time, the first legendary island satellite planetary giant engine has been tested. This is also a big harvest. 3 good news for a bumper harvest. Then Ying Ziyue stood up at this moment. He poured a cup of tea for his old man. Now the old man has been wearing reading glasses. Although his eyes are fine, he still wears glasses habitually, and he looks also. The aura of the elderly became more and more refined and mature. And then Ying Ziyue watched the old man speak. Father, for example, if the East is going to start a super great cosmic plan next, this plan will require global efforts. For example, all the countries in the world, all the rulers, all the island owners and all the islands will listen to a paper order. They will be at the same time. Whether the West will become the largest agricultural base, or the East will become the largest scientific research base, and the world will become the largest experimental base. All the people in the world will only listen to this one order and only this one. The plan, then, what the Earth has to do, is to push the Earth to other orbits. Do you think it can be done? Ying Ziyue finished laughing. He smiled directly. That's right, just like the beginning. This sentence of dialogue is the same as the beginning, but it has been more than 20 years. But this sentence covers more and farther. In the beginning, what Ying Ziyue said was, what will happen to the development of the East when it retreats for half a year, but now it has directly become a global unity, and then complete this cosmic level super big plan. So when Ying Ziyue finished speaking, the old man was silent for a moment. He lit a cigar, and then slowly smoked it. The current cigars are made of cold resistant plants in the Ice Age, so they don't contain any toxic substances. Instead, they can clean the body to a greater extent. The coldness, rheumatism and so on. The old man watched the TV and said, why can't it? In the next 3 bumper harvests, the West will become the largest agricultural base, and the largest agricultural reserves will also include factories. That is to say, the West will be represented by the high levels of the East. The West's food will be enough to feed the world, and it will be normal. Food supply, even the most perfect food supply of 3 dishes and 1 soup. This is the most perfect craftsmanship. This supply is enough to show the strength of the East. At the same time, our country will become the focus of scientific research. When the whole people begin to learn scientific research and move towards mechanical scientific research and other civilizations, I believe it will be the most shocking scene in the world. There is no city of steel, no man-made flying backpacks, man-made flying motorcycles. But now all have appeared, and we have also proposed a plan to use the universe as a strike point. Therefore, the East leads the world. There is nothing that can't be done, and there is nothing that can't be done. I believe we can always, and it will be now, and in the future. After the old man spoke, his cigar just finished smoking. Chapter 342. At this moment, when Ying Ziyue asked his father again, it felt as if many years had passed, and it turned out to be the case. Nearly 21 years in total. Now Ying Ziyue still has Ying Ziyue's father. Only the two of them know this question. How much does the meaning of these 2 questions express? Or how much it carries? The first question is that the year, when it is famous all over the world, is also in June. At that time, the young and immature Ying Ziyue said, if the East is going to retreat within the next 6 months, then it will fully develop industry and agriculture will be fully self-sufficient. Can it be done? This is Ying Ziyue's first question. Then there is the second question. The second question is at the beginning of October 20th, Glacier World, that is to unite the power of the world. First build the West as the largest agricultural reserve base, and then the East wind as the total scientific research base. So half of the Earth is agricultural large the base, the other half of the Earth is a large scientific research base, and then the general plan of mankind is to follow the universe. Which seems like a fateful reincarnation, and now it has finally been manifested, but there are too many twists and turns in the middle. The death of a lot of people. First of all, the next trend is the Ice Age, the trend of the Chronicle. That is to say, this is the overall trend of this azure planet. First of all, the current temperature is -50 degrees, and the temperature will not change in 20 years, because the Earth is still within this dense piece of information, and the basic weather is still extreme weather, blizzards, tsunamis, plate collisions, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, etc. These disasters have long been used as usual. At the same time, humans have also figured out some of the geological changes. Basically, humans live in safe areas. The total area of no man's land in the world is close to 85%, and the remaining 15% are safe bases for humans. 85% of the area is in various extreme dangers and complex environments. This is the 20th year of the Ice Age. This is the book record on page 1 of the Glacier Chronicle. That is, when his descendants see history, they will see this most critical record, because it carries a kind of change point at the same time. The Chronicles of the Glacier World. On November 15, 20th, due to various disasters, satellites and submarine cables were all destroyed. Later, news from China and the West and other parts of the world were terminated, which means that people around the world will no longer read it. No news, no more global news, but now a signal satellite sent by the East broke out of the stratosphere and then hung in the designated orbit of the Earth's revolution. This code-named East News Star, and what this satellite carries, is the world's international news. Communication work. In other words, the East will take pictures of the world and transmit them to every mobile phone, IP computer and other social software in the West. They will once again be able to see global changes, but the current news master is the East. This news platform is called the Global Hot Search, and now it is the #1 in the world's hot search. The first hot search is the Zhulang Rebirth Project. The second most popular search is that the world has entered the Ice Age filming at this moment. The third hottest search is that the construction of the Kawasaki Island #1 project has been completed, and now the news has reached the third most searched news, and the third most searched news is mainly for explanation. The Commander-in-Chief Zhao Liting will start the explanation point in the video. He started speaking. First of all, the people around the world are good. The Kawasaki Island is the first giant engine project in the East. It is committed to taking on the most important task and the most difficult task of launching planetary engines to the Earth. Because for us, what we have to do is confrontation, not fly the spaceship to escape. So, let's briefly introduce this plan. Now the basic 7 power engines have been installed. At the same time, next to this giant engine factory, the living area, the planting area, the defense area, and the temporary factory area are all completed. Here a total of 20,000 people can survive. After the report is completed, there are news comments from all over the world below this news. The first is from Glacier, Island 27, an introduction called Eek. His comments are very exciting, because in the course of nearly 15 years, he used the internet again for the first time. Maybe he was, when he was famous all over the world, a hairy child, and now, 20 years have passed in a hurry. She has become an uncle who has grown up in the disaster, so his comment is very exciting. Gentlemen, let us collectively thank Danfang, and thank him for once again allowing the world to have a bridge that can be connected. This bridge is global news. There are nearly a dozen apartments in total. As ordinary people, we have no way of knowing the global situation. But now I have checked the information of the East for more than 10 years. I really checked it for 2 days. I now know it. Zero fine flowers. I just want to praise the legendary Superstar Engine project. The engine of the East is bound to be the greatest project in human history. No matter the Earth surpasses the first level of civilization, this will also be the greatest project, because it represents the power of the world. From many reviews, not only North Glacier, but also Eagle Country, Rose Country and so on. The fourth hot search is impressively the free city of Rose Country in the 20th century of the Glacier Roseland, the City of Liberty. This is a newly established city, mainly built next to the Statue of Liberty carved in ice and snow. This city with a population of close to 500,000 is called the City of Liberty because it relies on the Statue of Liberty. In a sense, this city is more like the Victorian period of ancient machinery. It has everything in the steam style, because in the extreme cold environment, the Victorian style is the most typical and obvious one, and it is also the most suitable for survival. 0 in the back of the east, the city looks extremely old. A steam structure is laid, and a steam engine ship is roaring on the sea. It looks extremely old, but this is the strongest city in the Rose Kingdom. But as the picture continued to leap, and then went outside the City of Freedom. Outside the City of Freedom was the giant engine factory number 2. When the screen was switched to this place, everything changed. I saw a military green blizzard chariot roaring. There were nearly 1,000 chariots lined up in a row. The walls of tall buildings with sci-fi buildings all appeared. A huge solar energy began to reflect light. The ice and snow on the ground were melted. The snow that the Gundam robot is clearing. At the same time, the airships in the sky are transporting materials. The tower crane is transporting supplies. Scenes of shocking events are reproduced, where the technology that truly belongs to the post-civilization era is displayed incisively and vividly. In this hot search, the comments of the people of the Eagle Country are most in line with the facts. A total of 20 years in the Eagle Nation. We used to live underground, but in the end we came to civilization on the ground, and then we became the Victorian steam civilization. We did it right, but no one thought that the East had already become super technological civilization. Death Chapter 343. The emergence of global news also unified news. In other words, the global cultural spirit and the pursuit of facts are perfected again. It also turned global news management into one point, and now the most explosive hot search appears. In the beginning of November of the 20th year of the Ice Age, in the current season of -50 degrees, humans have no concept of integrity. The meaning of all seasons of spring, summer, autumn and winter has long been lacking and disappeared earlier, as recorded in the human yellow calendar, solar calendar, and lunar calendar. Everything has disappeared. All you can see and feel is white snow, squally wind, extreme weather, and endless -50 degrees. This is why it is called the Great Ice Age, which is negative. This is extinction. This is the destruction of everything. However, since the beginning of November, the East 340, a hot search, news directly dominated the world's first news, that is number one, the giant engine test on the eastern Kawasaki Island. I saw that it was accompanied by satellite live broadcasts, and live broadcasts filmed by reporters from the east. The live broadcasts were very crisp. There was no cumbersome host to explain, only the live broadcasts, and the most meticulous explanations, by scattered professionals. A giant engine nearly 300 meters high appeared in front of the live broadcast, standing in the center of the island. Around this engine, there are researchers and professors standing one by one. At the same time, everyone is highly concentrated, highly prepared, because in the middle, this giant engine is about to be tested for the first time. The test is surprisingly the decision to represent the planetary engine program of the Earth. Therefore, there are as many as 3 billion people in the live broadcast room. You have to know that there are a total of 500 million people in the world. It can be said that the live broadcast audience covers almost the whole world. As the screen begins, the Commander-in-Chief Xihai spoke in front of the camera. "Gentlemen, I think you need to know about it. First of all, this is the latest engine. It is 300 meters high and 75 meters thick. It is loaded with nuclear fission, and energy fission, respectively, are three types of fission energy. This energy is used as a driving force. Because the current engine is more than electricity, gasoline, wind has the ability to push. All cannot be done, because the function of this engine is to promote the Earth. So 3 extreme energy sources must be used, and nuclear energy is only the weakest. Kind of." Xihai's voice was very clear. His words were like wind and snow, and after he finished speaking, he nodded, as if he had ordered. At this moment, Xihai's professional voice began to sound, accompanied by the roaring sound of the engine. "Prepare for the first step. Start the first step of nuclear fission." Following the opening, the first part of the engine began to spray a faint mist. At the same time, nearly 72 small engines began to rotate inside, and a burst of roar sounded, which was the start of the first part. The second step is to turn on the machine with the energy system. After the opening is completed, the second step starts, and the second step is in the middle of the giant engine. After the second step is opened, a burst of positive and negative energy sources begin to rotate. At this moment, the air seems to emit bursts of ripples or tremor. A huge nuclear fission energy is beginning to impact, and humans can fully feel that this ultimate impact is about to strike. Every worker and every engineer present are wearing biochemical clothing to prevent nuclear radiation and nuclear pollution. The third step is to start promotion. At this moment, directly on both sides of the giant engine, two rocket-like engines appeared on the left and right, which suddenly ejected from the engine, like the wings of a bird, as an auxiliary propulsion, starting power and energy. Start super energy, nuclear fission is all activated. At this moment, with Zhao Liting's voice falling to the ground, the aura burst out. The satellites are clearly photographed by the naked eye. The giant engine with a diameter of 300 meters makes a real battle sound. The sound of the engine is getting louder and louder. The sound of starting is getting louder and louder. The roaring burk and the trembling sound are getting louder and louder, which is the ultimate energy output. The engine is in the fierce roaring field. Then, at the moment of the live broadcast watched by all the people, the engine emitted a bright blue flame point. Then at this moment, I saw that all the islands covering nearly 1,000 kilometers were covered with huge waves. Pieces of rubble were falling on the mountains, and a huge impetus was suddenly opened. The test data appears in the engine test table, covering 1,272 kilometers of vibration. Coverage level 7, level 6 and above. The coverage area is scored as 80 points at this moment. Kawasaki Island's giant engine has been tested and successfully tested. This plan also represents a complete success for global aspirated engines. In those bullet screens, the people of the East are accustomed to all the actions of the East, but those people in the West have just felt the age of technology again from the steam age. So everyone is crazy about life, surprised, shocked, and excited. So is Einstein alive in Eastern science and technology. They seem to have gathered the most elite scientists of the Western era, and then they will all unite, and then complete the Zhulang project. This is not just a miracle, it is a leap of an era. That is, human civilization has been promoted from level 0.7 to level 1. This is the Southern Glacier. This is the area covered by ice and snow in the Southern Glacier. We are the new survivors. We were desperate at first, but as the global signal was restored, we looked at the Eastern test plan, and looked at the latest engine. Raw, when you really feel the shock of the air covering 1,000 kilometers, then you can really feel the scientific research power of the East. So I know why they have been invincible within 20 years, because they really have invincible qualifications. In the current field of scientific research, their Zhulang project is no longer a luxury, nor a fantasy, but a real success. At this moment, the 20th Ice Age Chronicle of the Ice Age recorded that in early November and the first planetary engine test was completed. The test score was above 85. The coverage power was more than 1,200 kilometers. The total coverage HID was above level 7, and the total coverage for 100,000 units. When 100,000 engines are about to roar, then the Earth will get out of the obsessive galaxy. Chronicle quotations. Congratulations on the Earth's entry into the first-class civilization. Chapter 344. At the beginning of December of the 20th year of the Ice Age, the first giant engine at this distance was first tested, and it has been a month. A month has passed since the establishment of global news. Within this month, the Zhulang rebirth plan was officially launched. 100,000 giant engine factories around the world were built, and the global network platform satellites were laid. It can be said that the world has once again entered a new civilization point. At the same time, the scientific research forces, scientific research talents, and education talents of the East are all going to every island in the world. The giant icebreakers in the East are rushing, and at the same time, they are patrolling and carrying out armed transportation in 100,000 places around the world, all for Zhulang rebirth plan. Now it is the beginning of December of the 20th year of the Ice Age. In the chronicle of the world, this can be regarded as the 21st year of the new Ice Age. And now, the most sought after news around the world is as follows. From now on, the world has entered the Ice Age movie. From the first engine of Kawasaki Island right square bracket 02 left square bracket Western Rose Country Freedom City, and so on. All the hot searches are dismissed. For now, there is only one shocking and grand news left. That is, the Cambrian is the first. The origin of plant species has exploded. In the civilized period of 203 years, the East paid the South and the North, and the resources of nearly 1 billion people were deployed successfully. Cambrian life species first broke out, and now the layout has been completely revealed after 21 years. So now the first hot search is this one, because it also relates to the progress of the next planet. At this moment, the whole world should remember this date. At 8 AM on December 1, 21st of the Ice Age, without the sun, the sky is gloomy, and extreme weather is still raging around the world. Now the hot search starts. First point, the picture here is a northern city in the northeast. In the known history of the world, the north of the East is also the largest agricultural reserve base in the East, but for the scientific research professors and professors of biology in the East, this is not only a biological reserve base, but also the world's largest agricultural base point. And behind this agricultural base is the turning point of the first Cambrian outbreak point at present. The oxygen in the East is at 45%. And the basic courage in the world is at 9.1%, which is a full 3 times the difference point. Starting live broadcast of the released with a satellite now. This is the first time in the Eastern sense that the global showdown has been held. Point, to what extent has their layout of the Cambrian explosion reached first global news events? On October 1, 20th of the Ice Age, at 10 AM, global news officially began. The first scene of the scene is Xihai City in the East. The buildings here are more magical and more like it's an alien life's machine, because it's basically all prismatic triangles, and there are also Pythagorean graphics. Therefore, there are prismatic buildings everywhere, as well as a number of stair-like buildings, high-rise buildings, etc. And the tallest triangular builder in Xihai City is 325 meters high. Standing on the roof of this building with Ying Ziyue, he came to live the first Oriental Cambrian plant outbreak throughout the whole process. In the screen, Ying Ziyue looks at the camera. His voice is like the voice of God, which kicks off the curtain. Next, you will see that the origin of a Cambrian plant species has exploded. For this reason, the East has devoted nearly 20 years of stored oxygen, seaweed, plant reserves, etc. And now it has completely exploded here. Ying Ziyue's voice was high-pitched and excited, although when his voice fell, I saw outside Xihai City, those everywhere were still early, as if they had been affected by something. Point, at the same time, a large amount of oxygen began to be released on the steam pipes in Xihai City and the giant pipes. These are super concentrated oxygen reserves. I saw that the oxygen began to quickly merge with any area at the speed of light. The location, the seaweed outside the city, and the weak cold resistant plants began to grow wildly. Point, for example, a willow tree. The color of the willow tree was green in the civilization period, but now the color of the willow tree in the Ice Age is ice blue. Point, I saw this icy blue willow tree inserted deeply into the ice. Originally, this willow tree was only half a meter high, but as the growth rate gets faster and faster, it begins to become 1 meter high, 2 meters high and 3 meters high, 4 meters high. At the same time, the bunches of leaves began to become more and more numerous, countless leaves more and more, growing more and more luxuriant, and then this willow tree completed the Cambrian species origin outbreak. Point, for this willow tree, it completes the taboo and leap of life. Point, then I took this willow tree as a starting point, and then covered the nowhere icebergs in Xihai City. The seaweed that was about 10 centimeters high also began to change. Point, in the beginning, these seaweeds were called space seaweeds, because the vitality of these seaweeds is still very bearable, but the Ice Age still made their vitality reach the extreme point. But now, they start to grow rapidly from a height of 10 centimeters, 30 centimeters high, 50 centimeters high, 100 centimeters high, even reaching a height of 2 meters in the end. This seaweed gradually turned into weeds and bunches of green weeds. The number of these seaweeds is countless, and at the same time there are a large number of them. I saw seaweeds begin to cover any area of the world point at the same time. Seaweeds began to grow rapidly in the green belts in the city, and then these seaweeds began to rapidly release oxygen to convert carbon dioxide. So the appearance of carbon dioxide began to be converted into more concentrated oxygen point, and this scene later became a point on the world map of the world map. That is, the area in the east began to turn a faint blue point. Blue has become the most essential color of plants in the Ice Age point. Then in the world, nearly 6,000 islands have also begun to turn blue, and then the western rose country and the male country also turned blue point. Then the whole earth began to turn blue point. Then the live broadcast of the first act was over, and a line of text appeared in the last act. He was sending it out from Ying Ziyue on the roof of the triangular high-rise building point. He represents the voice of Eastern researchers, and the content is as follows. At the beginning of December of the 20th Ice Age, nearly 21 years of painstaking arrangement, the first Cambrian plant outbreak was completed. This outbreak is called the Cambrian plant outbreak. Please remember this matter for the global public. At this moment, under this news, there are people from more than 6,000 islands, as well as people from billions of people such as the Eagle Country, Rose Country point. They are all commenting in excitement because they have witnessed the outbreak of a living species, being able to witness the miracle in front of them with their own eyes. They feel that everyone is God. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 345. Number 1 in the world's hottest news. Cambrian plant outbreak. The comments are as follows. I'm a citizen from the 2721st island. This island is called Apps Island. It has a population of 170,000, and the manager is Leo Mayozi. As a person in my 40s, I have personally watched the direction of civilization in the century, and I'm getting old in the fight against disasters. But now as a biologist, I really did not expect that the history of human civilization would reach this point. To a degree, or other, I have witnessed the miracles of the universe. Darwin's doubts, as well as the doubts of biophysicians, etc., have been overturned because we have witnessed our human beings and promoted the Cambrian outbreak. There are a lot of hot comments, all from the Western people. It can be said that the Western people were shocked to the limit of their thinking by the Cambrian outbreak point, and now the global hot search has changed again. Top search. Cambrian outbreak of animal origin. Brief introduction of the outbreak. The origin of living things. The East has spent a full 21 years for this project, and at the same time, has paid the lives of nearly 100 scientific researchers. They went out to survey, go out to explore, go out hunting, and even went out to determine the survival area of wild animals. This project pays not only the scientific researchers in the East, but also the power of the East as a whole, because it comes from the evolution of living species. It also determines how many new creatures there will be on this planet, and it also determines the largest of this planet. Potential, so extremely important. Please remember the global people. This live video will always commemorate the comrades who lost their lives for the Cambrian outbreak of life. We will always miss it. The second act of the Ice Age finally broke out. The scene in this scene is not a northern city, nor an eastern inland city, but an endless ocean point. This is the east coast, because you can see pieces of steel fences in the hollow of the steel fence. A black airship was floating. In the middle of the airship was Ying Ziyue. His white hair was very obvious. Ying Ziyue pointed to the camera, pointed to the ground. Then at this moment, all the seaweeds in all the cities in the east, strong oxygen swept the entire continent point. Then the mammoth flocks on the ground. These mammoths, their fur became thicker and longer again. This is not a speed that can be seen by the naked eye, but it can truly feel that they have completed a life-level leap. Mammoths appeared with thousands of heads and tens of thousands, stretching and undulating, like a colony of black ants. They marched from the east coast towards the inland no man's land. A row of the Great Wall, even standing on an 800-meter high airship, could not observe the end. This is a group of mammoths, a mammoth that has completed the evolution of life levels. Cambrian mammoth, life level evolved successfully. Then came the second act. Behind the group of mammoths, it was a grey-white tiger with sharp fangs. This is a saber-toothed tiger. This is a group of saber-toothed tigers that have completed the evolution of life species. Finally, there are more and more saber-toothed tigers. Eventually more and more animals appeared, then snow hares, snow wolves, pheasants, and even hyenas, hippos, lions, wild boars, brown bears, antelopes, wild birds and so on. At the same time, countless marine ancestors appeared in the sea and completed the evolution of the picture gradually spread to the world, and the islands near the east began to change. The seaweed on the islands began to erupt, and then changed from white to blue. At the same time, the vitality of animals began to appear on the islands. More than 6,000 islands turned blue, then to the Eagle Country, and then to the Liberty City in the Rose Country. So the Statue of Liberty in Rose Country is no longer white, but blue, which is the color of seaweed covering. The subsequent picture turned into a satellite picture, and then the entire planetary mammoth group and other fauna appeared, seaweed and other plants appeared, a brand new and exuberant vitality completely erupted. The chronicle of the Ice Age world is recorded as follows. In the Ice Age, the seaweed and cold resistant plants broke out successfully, and the record was successful. This is the outbreak of plant species recorded in the annals of history. The successful record of the outbreak of cold-resistant animals in the Ice Age has been successfully recorded, covering every plain in the east and every island in the world. And this time it was early December, and the last step of the Zhulang rebirth plan was completed. It is now the world's #1. With a lot of news, and there are countless comments from all over the world. First of all, the most popular knowledge comes from the Free City of Rose Country. This is a message sent by a manager of the Free City. First of all, gentlemen can call me Zach. I'm 75 years old this year. I used to be the builder of the Liberty City statue, and I was also a sociology at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. After a series of disasters that followed, I became a manager. I started real management and started real construction to make human beings live better and survive better. But now, I have seen the East, and I have also seen, and what I'm academically related to is the origin of human species and the explosion of life species. I just want to say that I have witnessed the explosion of colonial species, and I have personally felt the origin of plant life species. In the current era, the East has completed the biggest foreshadowing of the Zhulang rebirth plan. The second most popular comment comes from Dongfang. This is a 16-year-old student from Dongfang. Next, it is said that it represents students of this age. First of all, I have never experienced a civilized society. I don't know what the civilized period is like. I see it from historical books and various video materials, but I only know that in this era, we the East paid too much for the Cambrian outbreak. Therefore, we are absolutely qualified to be king in this plan. The third most popular comment comes from, ranked number 5726, a small island knows that the island, okay, has only 70,000 people, and the person who left a message is a black person, and her message is exciting. Who could have imagined that the ancestral Dragon Rebirth project was so terrifying before? I now know that when the ancestral Dragon Rebirth project completely erupts, people will witness the greatest civilization and let us cheer for it. At this moment, people around the world began to look forward to the Zhulang rebirth plan. The first step, 100,000 giant engines around the world, pave the way for the first step. In the second step, 2 outbreaks of plants and animals in the Cambrian period paved the way for the second time. All of this is only for the Zhulang rebirth plan, and now the plan has officially ended and officially started. Let us thank the comrades who gave their blood for this project. We offer flowers, we offer blessings, and we will commemorate you forever. Chronicles 20s. Chapter 346. It's December 15th, and it's over a sea area between the east and the Kawasaki Islands. The highest altitude here is 3,000 meters, and now an airship is roaring in the sky above 300 meters. The sound of extreme weather ravaged from the sky. Then a giant airship appeared. This airship was military green. The people all over the world and countries all over the world knew this airship. This is the chief engineer of the 3 master plans of the Eastern Snow Country train, the Iron City Zhulang rebirth plan. It is Ying Ziyue's airship point. Now on this airship, Ying Ziyue observes the basic layout below from the naked eye, and at the same time, uses the observation telescope next to it to see each tree on the ground more clearly. He is watching the layout of the Zhulang Rebirth project. December 15th. It took a total of half a month for the Cambrian plant life species to explode. In this short half month, the global oxygen concentration has increased from 15% to 45%, and then it is still rising sharply, and the final oxygen concentration will stabilize at 57%. Under this oxygen concentration, some insect mammoths will become taller, stronger, and have more vitality activity. At the same time, the human body will gradually undergo certain changes. The vital organs, vitality epidermis, etc. will undergo substantial changes. Improve. It can be said that this will be an overall improvement for the human body. And now the Zhulang Rebirth project has begun to upgrade slightly. At this moment, in the sight of the observing telescope, Ying Ziyue can clearly see the whole world. It is a factory with huge engines, and it is beginning to be laid. Then he spoke, starting to adjust the satellites. I need to see 100,000 giant engines all over the world turn on at the same time, because this plan is very important. After Ying Ziyue finished speaking, as if the entire sky had begun to change, Engineer Li Hao quickly called up the satellite image. A detailed satellite map appeared, and 100,000 points were marked directly on this blue planet. Then every piece is a place where a giant engine is built, and every area where a factory is built is extremely rigorous. At this moment, the cold wind is howling violently. Everyone is extremely dignified and cautious. The first sight of 100,000 giant engines is from the eastern countries. Dongfang has a total of 1,720 car model engine factories. To be precise, Dongfang is more suitable for scientific research and development, so there are fewer giant engine factories here. Then came the west, the southern glaciers, the northern glaciers, the grassland mainland, and the Kawasaki Islands, etc., as well as more than 6,000 islands around the world. These areas are really the most suitable places for building giant engines. The remaining 90,000 are scattered in the major areas of these island territories. Some are in the wilderness, some are next to the city, some are near the city, and some are in the middle of the city. In short, engineers from the east will guide the factory, and now there are countless blimps of the eastern symbols in the sky. Just like black ants, you know that the construction of giant engines is actually not difficult. First is the later engine factory for giant engines, then the first phase of the engine engineering supporting project, as well as the living quarters. Each living area has to be deployed between 1,000 and 10,000 people. At the same time, airships are used to transport other devices of giant engines. This device is currently only produced in the east, so the main task of southern cities in the east is to produce materials and devices for giant engines. Then Ying Ziyue watched. He watched with satisfaction, with a smile on the corner of his mouth. Unknowingly, very well planned by the Zhulang. The Cambrian plant exploded, the life explosion was completed, the international conference was completed, the big movie was completed, and now the 100,000 giant engines were completed, and everything is moving towards the first part of perfection. Then he put down the satellite map, and then looked at the observation telescope. The observation telescope was at an altitude of 3 kilometers, and then he came to observe the road above the ground. The road above the ground is an extremely important thing. In the 20th year of the Ice Age, nearly 20 years of blizzards, icebergs, meteorites, and other extreme weather destroyed mountains, oceans, mountains, and rivers. It can be said that the roads of the original civilization all destroyed, and now, what he was watching was the rolling roads extending in all directions. These roads came from various countries in the world and were opened up by engineers from the east, because these roads will determine the life and economy of mankind in the future. When he saw that on the white snowy ground, a black road began to be broken. Blizzard chariots lined up neatly and then walked out a road in the snow. It's like human beings are opening up an unknown civilization, and when the roads around the world are being opened, standing at an altitude of 3,000 meters, to overlook this spectacular scene is undoubtedly extremely shocking. The satellite map shows 100,000 black spots around the world. This is the 100,000 latest engine. and it also covers the entire degree of this round Earth. It can be said that any area has an engine, and it does not need to be perfect. Now it is also equipped on the sea. The engine on the sea. In short, this planet has completely turned into a small flying device. The roads above the ground have also been opened up, and these roads will also become human lifelines at an altitude of 3,000 meters. Ying Ziyue was above the airship. He looked at the land, looked at the countless winding roads, at the same time, above the sea, ice-breaking aircraft carrier icebreakers on every island in every country line up. Only the materials transported by the airships in the sky, the icebreaker aircraft carrier above the sea, and an icebreaker are also transporting all kinds of materials, including living materials, industrial materials, military materials, and so on. This is truly taking the East as the radiant point, and then covering every region of the world, ensuring that every region of the world is covered and attacked in a unified manner. The sky is still -50 degrees, and extreme weather is still raging around the world. However, a new generation of Cambrian plants and a new generation of mammoth life species have appeared, and humans have already come from the ground to the ground, and they are beginning to start again. Progress, but this time, what they want is not survival, but confrontation. Congratulations to the completion of the first step of the Xulang Rebirth project. Probably no one would have thought that in 20 years, there will be 100,000 engines, and probably no one would have thought that a huge international conference would be opened here. The origin of all civilizations of mankind comes from here, and the turning point of all civilizations of mankind will also start from here. World Chronicle, the autobiography of Ying Ziyue, chapter 347. Here is the deep universe. The sun is still there. Forever moonlight is still shining on every area that can be shining. The changes in the universe are extremely small, but this suborbit is related to the life of many galaxies, even though the Earth has not yet detected extraterrestrial life. But from the perspective of the universe, the current Earth, 4 weeks ahead, has countless groups of meteorites. There are too many meteorites like sand particles, and they are arranged neatly in the sea of stars. This is a group of meteorites in dense galaxies. They do not fly in any regularity, and they do not follow any regularity point from the eruption point of a black hole to a new point of a black hole, and then disappear. It is beige, but wherever they collide, they all turn into dust and ashes or incarnate meteorite fragments, wandering along with them in the universe. This is the fate of the Earth, and it is also the fate that countless star astronomers have speculated during the civilization period and the Ice Age, but it is beginning to change. This is a southern city in the east, called Xihai City. This is a city close to the sea again. The reason for the construction of this new city is that it will become the launch point of the International Aviation Center. Only more than 100 geographers have explored the surrounding geological environment. This is the geology of the East, and the best is here, and there is almost no waves on the seashore. Therefore, this place was built into an international aviation center. Military tanks are in progress. Giant Gundam robots are standing in the quartet. An airship in the Sky City also turned on the laser cannon device. Icebreaker chariot, blizzard chariot, thunder chariot, and countless official off-road vehicles, which can be said to guard this city in the form of behemoths at 10 o'clock on the morning of December 20th. The temperature was -49 degrees 5, and the sky showed a 4th level north wind. This is the International Aviation Center, with tall walls guarding the surroundings. Then, outside the city, a tall ship. The rockets lined up neatly. Then the engine started roaring. At this moment, no one thought that the East had launched a laser device and a lookout device for Mars and Jupiter. Finally, the first international news is that the global Xulang Rebirth project launches rockets, spaceships. The second part of the Xulang Rebirth project was launched. First of all, the second part of the Xulang project is to launch 2 spacecraft, respectively located on the Moon and Mars, but no one thought that Eastern means would be so fast. When the 100,000 giant engine factory was built, they had already started to implement the second project direction. In other words, many engineers in the East waited for this opportunity for a long time. I don't want to waste a moment. So when this hot search became the #1 hot search in the world, the news broke directly. The people in the East have long been accustomed to this kind of surprise. It is the people in the West who really cheer for it. They like scientific research, especially this kind of shocking scientific research. This is the Hal's Island. 2 giant ships have finally been launched. The origin of human history will explode here. This laser spacecraft will be the first time that mankind has built a laser station device and began to strike meteor swarms. When this kind of strike war is established on Mars and then start to hit the meteorite group with the promotion of giant matter, this kind of stellar collision is simply impossible to render. I'm a weapon expert from Civil University. My grandfather once studied nuclear fission devices. This is what he said. Compared to the laser devices on Mars, he would like to see the moon observation. That is, after the Earth builds a viewing device on the moon, it is equivalent to the eyes of the Earth, allowing the Earth to observe all directions, all regions, and all distances from front to back, left to right, and even 360 degrees. You can clearly observe everything, and then complete the most shocking thunder strike. This will be the most important measure in the next millions of years, the eyes of humans and the eyes of the Earth. A lot of news from all over the world, but then the picture of the global hot search changed. Directly in the picture, the International Aviation Center. After the 2 rockets were launched, they entered the stratospheric ozone layer and then rushed out of the Earth. With the rocket world, people around the world felt the brilliance of the starry sky point, and here is the meeting room of the International Aviation Center. In the meeting room Ying Ziyue, there are also engineers Xihai, as well as the Western Eric, Alex, and a series of high-level islands, Romans, etc. All of them now. This meeting is, because it is also one of the most important plans of the Zhulang Rebirth Project Zero Find Flowers. Now all the pictures are on Ying Ziyue, and a series of senior executives in the West are watching him. Everyone. This is the second part of the Zhulang Rebirth Project. I think you should have seen it too. One of the 2 rockets will target the Earth's moon. It will attach to the moon and activate the anti-gravity device. The moon establishes a state of gazebo, and finally it is gradually laid, and then the 3rd, 4th, and 5th ship are launched until the perfect success in building an observation platform. Then Mars, the laser device of Mars is to create a huge laser shockwave. That is, for weeks of the Earth, all the meteorite groups will be blocked. No, it will be exploded next, and then the laser shockwave will overthrow those crushed rocks, fragmented meteorites, etc. One is for guarding, the other is for observation. These are the 2 plans for taboo and worry, to advance to the universe, which is enough, because there are too many words in the future, and there are not so many scientific researchers on the Earth. You know that in the 20 years of disasters, there are still survivals. The direct loss of Western scientific research power is only 1/10 point at present. All major scientific researchers in the world rely on the East, which is under great pressure. Ying Ziyue's voice was very calm. So what we have to do next is the second plan for Zhulang's rebirth, and then start the final plan. After that, the rest of the executives all nodded. The meeting was quiet. Ying Ziyue walked out of the meeting room. He came to the Aero Engine rocket launch base. He looked at the giant rockets preparing to launch with complex expressions. No one would have imagined that after 20 years, the East would actually begin to enter the universe. During the Ice Age, the West was also developing the universe, but their main development was that they attempted to build a habitat for life in other places, but they failed, because in the vast universe, the level of technology they possessed was simply insignificant. Now the East has done it, with all mankind. Death Chapter 348. January 1st. This is moon time, January 1. 21st Ice Age. The moon, commonly known as the moon, is also called the moon. In ancient times in the East, it was called Taiying, Zhu and Tianjin. This is the only natural satellite of the Earth and the 5th largest in the solar system. The diameter of the moon is larger than that of the Earth, 1/4 of the Earth. The mass is 1/80 of the Earth. Compared to other surrounding planets, the moon is the largest satellite in volume and mass, and the densest in the solar system. The density is second only to Io. 1 point at this moment. The moon is revolving around the Earth, from west to east, counterclockwise, and its orbit is 79 degrees from 18.28 to 28.58. At the same time, the moon's atmospheric pressure is now 1.3, which has become 10 kPa. The reflectivity reached 58%. The distance to the ground is 360,000 meters and 400,000 kilometers. And now in this section, on the vast plains of the moon, there is a dark red area of meteorite impact. This was once called the place of origin of the Great Collision, but now, this is the radiant place of the eye of the Earth. Now the Earth enters a new year again. These new years are also the year that mankind wants to come, and the astronomical starry sky is constantly entangled with reverses. At the same time, on the vast plains of the big collision of the moon, a ship, the Army Green Giant spaceship, began to land slowly, and a red flag was placed on the spaceship with "Kin" written on it. Inside the spacecraft, Xihai City, chief engineer of the Eastern Moon, is looking at the moon with complicated terrain through spacecraft level windows. Now proceed to the first step of landing and start. Landing on the moon, after Xihai City spoke, news came from the cabins one by one, and then the moon began to eject sharp claws on the climbing ground, and then began to debug and land. At the same time, the moon also began to hear the sound of howling, which is the sound of atmospheric pressure colliding, because when the spacecraft lands on the moon, there will be a great degree of moon collision, which will cause some degree of collision pressure. Start adjusting the placement device. As the chief engineer of the moon Xihai City spoke, the second step started at this moment. That is to say, a total of 3 separate spaceships began to connect. The robotic arms began to connect quickly, and then they were installed on the ground like a giant house falling from the air, and the anti-gravity device was activated at the same time. The first part was successfully installed. Watch it while you are dribbling. If you look at it from a neutral angle, you will see a spacecraft key house on the lunar ground. If you eat it, it is the early lunar construction. We must know that during this disaster, the East also made great progress in the scientific research of astronomy and starry sky. Part 3 places the eyes of the Earth. Xihai City's voice became exhilarating, because the 3 fusion airships carried a giant telescope similar to 100 meters high. Then, under the environment of gravity, they began to slowly descend and proceed slowly. Placement. Afterwards, a creaking sound rang quickly. The sound of the successful installation of the giant telescope sounded. That's okay. At this moment, the lunar base has been successfully installed, the initial eye device has been installed, and the basic general engineering has been installed. At this moment, the official began to report on news. First of all, here is the spacecraft official from the moon, that is, the chief engineer Xihai City. He is holding the broadcasting equipment, and then broadcasts to the Earth Eastern Airlines Center. He is here to broadcast this important news. This news is also like a connection. It is reported that Xihai City, the chief engineer of the moon, has installed the Eye of the Earth device on the moon. The latitude 17.2536.997 and other areas are currently installed. The Eye of the Earth device is in progress. The commissioning report is completed. Please the chief engineer to direct. This message quickly appeared in front of Ying Ziyue's office at the Eastern Airlines Center. He looked at the message, then clenched his fist and then spoke. These news are reported to the world, so that the world can see the progress of the project with its own eyes. At the same time, a new development will start next, and that is about the installation of the Martian laser device. Ying Ziyue's voice is even more serious, because this is like a laser device. It will be the most shocking device in human history. At this moment, this is Mars, not the same as the moon. Mars is the 4th planet in the solar system from the inside to the outside. This is the 8th largest planet in the solar system, the 2nd smallest terrestrial planet, with a diameter of 53% of the Earth and a mass of 14% of the Earth. At the same time, the cycle of Mars orbiting the Sun is twice that of the Earth, and hematite is distributed on the train. So from the perspective of humans, the visual experience of Mars is orange-red, with sand dunes on the surface, and sand and rocks all over it. Liquid water is everywhere, mainly titanium dioxide, thin and cold, full of a crater, extremely complex. At the same time, the eccentricity of Mars is 0.93, the surface temperature is -63 degrees, and the inclination of the rotating shaft is 25.19 degrees, and the revolution period is 686,980 d. This is the activity, and the next time the Earth will install strike devices. Mars is a desert planet with dunes everywhere on the ground. It is extremely complicated every year. It is extremely complicated. At the same time, the distance to the Earth is 50,05 million kilometers, and the farthest distance is more than 400 million kilometer. However, this Mars is the most suitable for installing a laser impact device point, because in ancient history, Mars was called the god of war in the West, which was named after the bright red color of Mars, and was also called the red planet. In ancient Greece and Egypt, they were called the god of farming. But later Guzi called it the god of war Ares, and ancient Rome called it the god of war Mars, and in Norse mythology, Mars was called the god of war Tyr, but now, Mars is called the god of war in the East. It is the ancient star of Ying Ziyue, because Mars is red in color, and its fluorescence is like flame, and it moves in the sky, sometimes from west to east, sometimes from east to west. The situation is complicated and confusing, so it is called Ying Ziyue. In ancient times call it Ying Huali, Lily Chaos, and now, the ancient star of Ying Ziyue has also begun to change its appearance, and now the Earth officially calls it Mars as the ancient star of Ying Ziyue. A total of 7 giant spacecraft rushed out of the orbit from the Earth, and then went to Mars for this journey, which is not the same as going to the moon. This journey is full of extreme threats, because of the dangers of Mars, as well as there are too many dangers on Mars, and there are countless dangers that humans can imagine in this galaxy, and they are extremely terrifying. But even so, the Eastern spaceship never flinches. Chapter 349. Time Ice Age January 2nd, 21. There are still 5 million kilometers away from Mars. The 7 spacecraft, codenamed Orient Gemini, arranged in a flying formation, and then began to sprint in the orbit of the meteorite group. This time the chief person in charge is the younger brother of Engineer Li Hao, who is called Engineer Li Ji. Li Ji, 17 years old, may have been a child in civilization, but in the Ice Age, he had been in contact with astronomy, stars, and spacecraft aeronautics, professional aeronautics, so the knowledge of aviation has reached the limit of knowing it, and every piece of knowledge is extremely detailed and clear on the spaceship army. He was wearing a green aerospace captain suit, and he was reporting to the ground with a flying headset. The commander-in-chief of the report: I'm Captain Li Ji of the ancient star of Ying Ziyue. I'm still 5 million kilometers away from Mars. At present, there are a total of 17 meteorite groups in the orbit of the meteorite group. At the same time, the car spacecraft is flying normally, the flight orbit is normal, and the spacecraft is turned on. With the strike device, we will use thunder strikes and shockwave strikes to protect the spacecraft more effectively once something goes against the current. 02 After finishing the broadcast, Li Ji quickly began to speak to the spacecraft. Start to issue emergency commands, because there will be 17 meteorite group orbits next, which is extremely dangerous here. Turn on the laser percussion gun device, turn on the side wing guards, and turn on the twin engines to start. Turn on the drop-in radar shockwave device, turn on the lightning field, change the orbital device, and turn on the 20 million kilometer detection device. At the same time, the first level warning is on. You may never return to Earth this time, so please do your best. I'm Captain Li Ji, and I want to be with you. After a thorough report, Li Ji closed the report, and then he waited quietly to go to Mars. He knew that his mission was also extremely difficult. In the environment of more than -60 degrees and complicated liquid water, he built a laser strike planting base in the glacier 21 years ago. Only the East could do it. This is the meeting room of Danfeng Xihai International Aviation Center, and there are not many high-level executives in the meeting room, because after the first cooperation meeting, only Ying Ziyue and his colleagues from the East are left. Looking at the old research professors and researchers present, Ying Ziyue spoke. From the moment he spoke, it seemed that his voice was full of passion. Everyone at this moment, you should remember these 2 chief engineers, as well as these researchers who went to the moon and Mars. They are the last ones in the East. Now let the world sound the highest courtesy response. In any city in the world, any island begins to plug in the temperament of yellow, black, and black. The black flag represents the highest courtesy tribute. Tribute to those people. At this moment, there are nearly 6,000 islands in the world, and nearly 300 countries around the world. They are on the territories of these countries. The scientific researchers and managers in the East have received a message that they are replaced by the Black Eastern flag. This is the conscript of the ancient Qin dynasty, with Yan Huang written on the banner at the same time. With the start of this order, a majestic and shocking journey kicked off. Here is the city of freedom in the country of roses. The hand is close to the Statue of Liberty. Now the Statue of Liberty has been covered with pieces of seaweed. On the essence of the seaweed, the Statue of Liberty is like the god of plants and the stone of life point behind these four seaweeds. A turbulent majestic city appeared on the coast. The country of roses is now a steam age punk, but on this huge land, a black flag begins rising. This is really just the beginning, because an even more shocking scene appeared. That is, the southern glacier and northern glacier flags also began. The two largest and most massive glaciers. The structure of the glaciers is extremely unique, and they have begun to wave their flags. The thunder in the direct sky is constantly hacking and cutting. On nearly 6,000 islands, the ice-breaking aircraft carrier icebreaker ships in the east are all planted with black flags. At this moment, all scientific researchers, and professors who go out to the east, every student, every geological worker, and every infrastructure worker. There are also airships flying in the sky, blizzard chariots walking on the ground, tanks, etc. But all those flags from the east, the flags with the word Yan and Huang, are all flying. All are flying. In the 21st of the Ice Age. First of all, there are two major events in the world. First, that is, the lunar engineers Aoa Guo led 3 spacecraft to wear 3 installation devices and then built the Earth-side device on the moon. This device also determines that the next 7 years will only be in 10,000 years. Heyo Mao's boundless universe has a greater understanding. It can be said that the Earth-eye device will also be the most recent and most important device of the Zhulang Rebirth project. Second, that is Li Ji, the chief engineer of Oriental Mars, whose elder brother is Dan Fang, such as the team leader and deputy team leader of the engineer of the Rebirth Planning Office, Li Heo. At the same time, he led 7 installation devices carried by 7 spaceships, and then rushed to the ancient star of Yinghuo. Their task was even more difficult. Among them, the protagonist commented on them as rushing to life and death without fear of any death. They represent the highest and strongest spirit in the East. This is the 21st year of the Ice Age. After all, they are the 2 most important and extremely important events. Then Ying Ziyue spoke on more than 6,000 islands, more than 300 countries, any island, any steam and machine on any land area. In modern cities, all the city walls, all the chariots, and the airships must be covered with black flags, all with the words Yan and Huang written on them. This does not represent a plan. Directly the supreme spirit of the East points in the long history of human years. The whole world has begun to witness the courage of scientific researchers and professors. They are witnessing the greatest and most shocking miracles now. Dongfangxi is also the General Aviation Research Base. On the roof of the rocket launcher, Ying Ziyue is wearing a black robe. His body looks a lot burly. He looks at the direction of the world and his voice is very sharp. This is the bloodiest, most fanatical, and most exciting era. In this era, the courage of the East has been brought to the extreme. Even if they go to the most dangerous and lonely universe, they are still struggling without any retreat. Choose to struggle. Era. You will always remember them. The universe. You will see that the most core force bursts out of this planet. So even if I die, our spirit will be immortal, running through the entire universe, without the laws of the dark forest, without the limits of the universe, and our spirits are in the same spirit. Chapter 350. The 21st of the Ice Age is now on January 15th. At present, the rebirth plan of the Eastern Zhulang has been running for 7 months. A full 7 months first. The first step, Ying Ziyue sent out a global conference. He sent nearly 6,000 airships, and then 6,000 airships received all the world's island owner managers to orientation, and then opened an international conference. Then the movie of the East, The World Entered the Ice Age movie, has finished its performance. This movie represents the spirit of the East for nearly 20 years, and then the movie has caused a huge response all over the world. The total number of plays has reached 1 trillion. Finally, the airship and the icebreaker aircraft carrier were launched, and the construction of giant engine factories began in 100,000 spots around the world. This giant engine also represented the first step of the actual plan of the East, and then 100,000 giant engines around the world were fixed. Subsequently, the Oriental Cambrian plant and animal outbreaks broke out. The two outbreaks represented the explosive spirit of the East. The layout of the outbreak for nearly 20 years was completed. The Explorer, the Eye of the Earth spacecraft, has landed and successfully opened the device. Mars, laser cannon. The spacecraft landed and explored, and then a laser cannon device was built on the moon. And now, on January 15th, Dongfang 21, this is the highest point of the Great Wall of the East. The height of the new Great Wall is no longer able to overlook the world, because standing on the Great Wall, there are towering and undulating icebergs in front of you. At the same time, the sky is constantly falling with goose feathers and heavy snow. The weather of -50 degrees makes the air thinner, so when you look up, you will only see patches of white fog. This is the natural environmental phenomenon brought about by extreme weather. For 20 years now, Ying Ziyue is wearing a black robe, with his hands behind his back. His figure is very tall and burly, just like an ancient record. He is 9 feet tall and burly. He is wearing a black bearskin gown, and his hair is half white. Then Ying Ziyue stood quietly. Behind him was Eric Alex and Chen Zino, the new research director of the Eastern National Research Institute. Wait for a total of nearly 17 people. 17 people are all standing on the Great Wall, and the one standing in the forefront is Ying Ziyue. Being able to personally feel the plan and the changes brought about by this era is very stalwart, so Ying Ziyue raised his chest and closed his eyes and calmed his mind. There was endless wind and snow in his ears, and he was right in front of him. The white blizzard, as well as the thunder, imaged the sky. Then he finally spoke. In this big environment, you will see a new era next, and it will also be the most solemn and shocking era. At the same time, the East is extremely important for global development and the development of the West into agricultural reserves. Therefore, we must fully develop the West next. At this point, his voice paused, because the next plan was extremely important. First of all, East and West, every island in the world, all roads are being developed, which means that this is in the Ice Age. The first road covering the world is being developed, but the development of this road is for the next builder around any snow country train that can connect islands and locations in the world. First of all, this can be called building a snow country train around the world. This sounds very incredible, but it is not incredible, because this is the 21st year of post-civilization. This is not the period of civilization. Now humans can build floating islands above the sea, and floating islands can be equipped with snow country trains. Therefore, building a global snow country train has long been a plan prepared by the Eastern Research Institute in the 18th of the Ice Age, but now only Ying Ziyue made a formal and shocking proposal. Once the world is equipped with this kind of train, it will prove that the era will be extremely shocking. In the current human records, we have opened up the global path of life, allowing more than 6,000 islands in the world, as well as the east, south, and north of the world, as well as the City of Freedom in the Country of Roses, the City of Eagles in the Country of Eagles, etc. Once they have a path of life, the following agricultural material planting, transportation and irrigation in the east will be extremely convenient. When Ying Ziyue said directly here, his mood became dignified, or he was extremely excited, because what he did next was the most important thing, but to see the most shocking scene in history, that is the global snow country train. First of all, we have floating island tracks, which can be done by floating islands. Therefore, the laying of sea tracks, the snow country train can completely connect China and the West, because we want the West to become a paradise for agriculture, so the development of the West is extremely important. After Ying Ziyue spoke, a slight smile curled up at the corner of his mouth. The meaning of this smile was strange, and it could be excitement or anticipation. At last he stood upright suddenly, and then saluted everyone. Next, 100,000 factories around the world are underway, and global lunar and Mars projects are under development, so let's start the global snow country train. At this moment, after Ying Ziyue spoke, the high-level executives in the West were extremely excited, and the high levels in the East were also extremely shocked. If before 2000, this project would be regarded as an extremely labor-intensive project. Even in the civilized period, these processes would be considered completely impossible projects even in the most developed civilized countries. The whole process of piloting will be considered completely impossible. Because first, the East is building 100,000 factories around the world, while the moon and Mars are being developed, and at the same time, there will be a large number of talents and scientific research transportation in the south and north of the East. It can be said that almost a major project is fully launched, and the whole people are now busy, but the extreme weather on the Earth is still extremely bad. Thunderstorms, okazo, rainstorms and terrible weather are still endless raging. At the same time, the temperature of the weather is still around -50 degrees, but in this era, the East actually started this project, so in a symbolic sense, this is not just a shock, but a test of the ultimate strength of a powerful country. This is the rendering of an era. In the current historical civilization of mankind, there has never been a country or a nation that has put forward such a great project. It is not only a project covering the whole world in the north and the south, but a super great project that truly covers the whole country. In a sense, this kind of project is not only great, but to create the future. Mars gleams the ancient stars, the eyes of the moon and the earth, the development of 100,000 engines, the development of the ancient path of global life. This moment the new era is officially on track. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.